one. Gamecock quarterback, last play of the practice on Friday, stepped on. Sprained foot is officially what Shane Beamer called it. On Saturday after scrimmage, the news had started to come out on social media and the whole thing, and then he very firmly said, don't get into all the doom and gloom. I'm hearing that's what the outlook is. That's not what this season is going to be about, and the whole thing. So, Patrick, I feel like there are a bunch of different issues right now at football, and we'll let you hear some of what Shane Beamer had to say and certainly discuss all of them thoroughly. But let's start with your reaction when you heard the news about Luke Doty, because from my standpoint, it is very similar to what happened about this time last year with Marshawn Lloyd, in that you can't win games in the preseason. You can't position yourself for an SEC championship in August. You can get work done. You can install your offense. You can start to feel good about your team, build depth and the whole thing. And unfortunately, you can go the other way and lose guys to injury. And last year, it was a really talented running back that kind of sucked the energy and enthusiasm out of preseason practice real quick. This year, it's an injury to Luke Doty that I guess was maybe first reported as more serious than Shane Beamer ended up reporting to us on Saturday, and isn't expected to keep him out much more than 2 to 3 weeks. It's kind of the word at this point, questionable for game number one.
Yeah, so I think the first things I was seeing was they're worried about it being a fractured foot, and yeah, that was going to be a big problem, especially when we've tried to break down almost every position group, everything we can about this team, but at the end of the day, we've all admitted maybe the secondary has less known pieces. Maybe you're not sure they're going to be as effective. You're worried about the wide receivers. But every time we've said what's the most important thing going into this season for South Carolina to be as successful as they want to be, it's going to be that position. It's going to be the quarterback in Luke Doty. It's all going to come down to him. So, yeah, it was very concerning. I didn't even think of Marshawn Lloyd, but now that I am, I think maybe that makes people feel a little bit better based on how that went last year. Marshawn Lloyd went down, and everyone said the sky is falling. This is the guy that everyone's the most excited to see, the highest recruited player. And what ended up happening is Kevin Harris came in and had the best season the South Carolina running back has had since Mike Davis, I think. So maybe that makes you feel more confident. I think we've heard a lot of buzz about Jason Brown. We've heard people talking about how much they like Colton Gauthier, and Shane Beamer was giving them a lot of praise too. So as far as the present, if Luke Doty doesn't play against Eastern Illinois, I hope they don't rush him back for Eastern Illinois. South Carolina should be okay against Eastern Illinois, no matter who's in at the quarterback. But in the long term, you just hope that he's able to rest. I don't know if people are eyeing now Georgia. That was the first thing I thought, was like, just don't even play him till Georgia. Maybe keep him on the sideline in pads or whatever against East Carolina. Maybe you could beat East Carolina without him, but just kind of make the big reveal against Georgia. But yeah, they'll be okay. A sprain, again, I don't know anything about foot injuries really, but a sprain sounds like it's okay. Just keep some weight off of it for the next couple of weeks. Do everything you can in the film room. Maybe do your upper body work or whatever it might be. Just keep yourself healthy and be ready to go week one, and everything will be all right.
So not only did the Marshawn Lloyd injury from last year pop in my head, but also an injury that sounded very similar to this to Jake Bentley at starting quarterback that happened at the end of the North Carolina season opener a couple of seasons ago, was a Lisfranc fracture. And that's kind of what you're talking about, that you were fearing might have been the news to begin with, the early reports. And that's an injury that keeps you out for a season. And that is not what this appears to be, according to Shane Beamer, about tests being taken. And still, I guess there is still maybe news to learn about that from a medical standpoint, or you just have to see how it progresses. But again, Shane Beamer saying that Luke Doty, starting quarterback, officially questionable for the season opener, out maybe just a couple of weeks. Will depend on kind of how his body heals. He mentioned too that Connor Shaw had a similar type injury back in his playing career at Carolina and bounced back in a couple of weeks. And he understands, obviously, Luke Doty isn't Connor Shaw, and everybody is a little bit different in the whole thing. But to me, this was test number one. Patrick, of Shane Beamer handling adversity. I mean, you combine this with Karan Prunty, the freshman defensive back, freshman All-American coming in from Kansas. And like you said, quarterback, defensive back. Those are, if not the top two, certainly two of the top three positions that almost all of us mentioned when we were talking about positions of concern. Throw in wide receiver, and those were the three. But you have quarterback where Luke Doty already only had 2 games of starting experience, played half of the game, another one last year as a true freshman. And then you have defensive back and corner specifically, where the top guy left as the top defensive pick in the NFL draft, and then Israel Mukuamu also leaving for the NFL. Johnny Dixon, another guy who was set to step in, transfers to Penn State. You got who was the safety that transfers to Florida State? Help me out there, Patrick.
Jamie Robinson.
Yep, Jamie Robinson. I think maybe the leading tackler last year. Oh. You had a bunch leave, and a bunch of guys came in here pretty much brand spanking new for simply preseason practice. Didn't even get spring practice in. And the guy that led the way there was Karan Prunty, freshman All-American from Kansas, who comes in and is now back in the transfer portal. Personal reasons, basically, is what I got from Beamer's explanation on Saturday. And he said he wasn't going to lie and say that it was good news, but Karan Prunty just needs to be in a different situation. I guess is kind of the explanation. What did you get from what you heard from Shane Beamer on that, and how do you think he has handled his first round of adversity as the head coach of South Carolina? Because when you get a freshman All-American coming in at the position of need and decides not to even get to week number 2 of preseason practice, and then your starting quarterback doesn't make it to preseason practice week number 2 without getting hurt, that's a solid bout of adversity to deal with early, Patrick.
Yeah, the Prunty explanation was a little strange. I mean, it was vague, and we were expecting that. I didn't expect him to come in and crush the kid or anything like that, and I also didn't expect him to come in and spill the kid's personal issues, whatever's going on with him. But just the way he was like, yeah, he just needed to change of scenery. It's like, well, he's here for a month. I mean, he barely even got to understand this scenery. Did he just come in and hate the Columbia Heat for a month and was like, yeah, I'm not doing this? Beamer didn't say anything like, yeah, he wanted to be closer to home or anything like that. So, I mean, I will definitely be keeping an eye out for where he ends up. If it's something like Tennessee, which I know was speculated by people just because it came down to South Carolina and Tennessee, if that's the deal, he came for a month and decides that he's going to go sit out for a year for the sake of going to another school that's equally far from home and in the same conference and in the same division in the same conference, that would be a little strange. But I mean, we have no idea what happened with him in the first month in Columbia, how that went for him. His relationship with the coaching staff seemed to be fine. I think he said that a lot of people talked to him. He talked to him. Derek Moore talked to him, and Prunty's family. So it doesn't seem like it was a coaching staff issue. And I mean, didn't seem like it was an on the field thing because he basically came in the first practice and had a starting job waiting for him. So definitely a little strange, and I'm not sure we'll really ever hear anything more from him. It's not really worth getting too worked up about because he was only here for a month or maybe even less, and it is what it is. As far as Beamer handling his first kind of major bout of adversity, I think he did as well as he could have. I think he wanted to come in and sort of send a strong message to all the people that thought that the season was over just because your quarterback hurt his foot. I think he did a good job with that. Kind of what you expect coaches to say. There's a lot of guys on the team that kind of feel disrespected by the whole idea that your quarterback, who has only started 4 games, however many it was at the end of the year. 2 games. Okay, so 2 games plus a half at Missouri. Okay.
Right.
So your quarterback who's only played 2.5 games is going to make or break your season. That's kind of disrespectful to a guy that ran for 1,000 yards in a 10-game season last year. It's kind of offensive to a defensive line who thinks they're going to be one of the best in the country, led by a potential first-round draft pick. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more than just the quarterback position, and especially if we're talking about a small injury, a sprain that's only going to be a couple weeks, it shouldn't be an issue. So I hope everyone kind of takes that, bottles it up, and says, it doesn't matter. We can win with anybody. We will win with anybody, and just take it from there.
Richard weighing in on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line this morning. I'm not sure how to take this. Richard says, I'm not worried about Doty being out. Don't think he's a major D1 caliber quarterback throwing the ball. Jason Brown or Colton Gauthier will be an upgrade, but I do hope the kid gets better. So Richard said that might be the biggest backhanded compliment we've ever heard. Interesting. I want you to hear what Shane Beamer had to say about this. If you haven't heard it already, and even if you have, it certainly bears repeating, as he was giving his message, and especially the strong one about doom and gloom and the whole thing. To me, it did remind me a lot of how I've seen Dabo Swinney approach adversity in years past. And just from a personality standpoint, it's always interesting for me to see how football coaches approach this type of situation, because make no doubt about it, that was a message to Gamecock fans for sure, what Shane Beamer was giving over the weekend, but also to his own team and maybe even his own coaching staff, that he was going to approach this thing with strength and not with resignation or anything like that. And will be interesting to see and hear from you guys this morning as we deal with the first round of adversity for Shane Beamer for sure, with an injury to Luke Doty. Sprained foot is what he's calling it. Out a couple of weeks, questionable for the opener. And then the transfer that I know you guys talked a bunch about on Friday with Karan Prunty heading out, the freshman All-American from Kansas. It was the first time we heard Shane Beamer actually talk about it over the weekend. Talked about all kinds of stuff. Running back position, possible quarterback battle now if Luke Doty is unable to go, with Dakereon Joyner getting some snaps. And then he clarified it later in his press conference saying, don't get him wrong, 97% of Dakereon Joyner's time in practice is being spent at wide receiver, but he said it would just not be wise of this coaching staff with the current situation to not have Dakereon Joyner, a guy who has obviously played a lot of quarterback in his career, not necessarily on the college level, but in his high school career was a Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina, and then in the quarterback room for a couple of years, down on the depth chart at South Carolina. Now at least getting a look or two and maybe giving the offense a bit of a different look and opponents something different to prepare for. I thought that was interesting for sure. The progression at the wide receiver standpoint, or his perspective at least of it, Shane Beamer's I'm talking about, and playmakers there. What's going on at the running back position. Then on the defensive side of the ball, there was a scrimmage over the weekend where apparently the defense forced their share of turnovers, and that has Shane Beamer now making sure it's to protect the football a little bit better and the whole thing. So we will continue to progress and fill out the conversation for Gamecock football this morning as we continue on. Patrick Perrette, Jen Jensen with me, Tim Hill. Bill Gunter will be doing Heath Klein's show for the next few days, as Heath has a few days off, Monday through Wednesday, and then we'll have the band back together on Thursday morning, where we'll actually be at Williams-Brice Stadium this week on remote location on Thursday. Looking forward to that and give you guys more details as we move a little bit closer to that. Right now, we need to take our first break. Again, that number to join us, 803-404-6100, if you'd like to call or text. Talking lots of Gamecock football because there's a lot to talk about this morning on the early game. That's 107.5 The Game. Glad to have you hopping on this morning, sir. I thought it might be me rolling solo for a little while.
No, I was just refreshing the StreamYard page to see if it was ready to pop on.
Yeah, I wouldn't get started if it was just me staring at myself. Not the greatest live stream. Morning, DC, LeVar, Anthony, Carlton. Thanks for hopping on early with us.
There's a dog camouflaged on that screen.
Dog camouflaged on that screen. Huh?
I don't think anybody's going to be able to see it.
Whoa.
At some point, she'll get up and move, but she's right there.
Oh, wow.
We had a big wig against my girlfriend's dog, and She had to move to Nashville a week early or 2 weeks early to start her job, and she can't bring her until next weekend. So I've been dog sitting all weekend.
How's that going?
Fun. We've had a big weekend. A lot of strolls around the neighborhood. A lot of dog park time. Yesterday we were out at home. We were out at Jake's and Backstreets for a while.
For you.
Might need to put a hat on.
So we got quarterback news at a couple of places, Penn State and Notre Dame.
And Kentucky.
Sorry, Kentucky is what I said, not Penn State. Penn State quarter transfer.
What was the Notre Dame? Jack Cohn. He just got named
Yeah.
starter, I guess.
And they played Wisconsin to start the season.
Yep. Yeah, I figured that would be the case. I guess they're pretty fired up about him. I don't know. How are we pronouncing? Is it Levis? Levis?
I would go with Levis.
Levis.
I'm guessing we could probably get a pronunciation guide at Kentucky. We really got after it. I've never seen that though. Levis. Did you get into any preseason stuff this weekend?
A little bit. I don't have the NFL Network, but I just watched kind of clips of all the rookie QBs. I think everybody played pretty well.
I mean, what a text we just got. What a text. Again, backhanded compliments just flying everywhere. Morning, Craig. I did see the quote there from Steve Smith. You see that?
All right, I think it is Will Levis. I watched a video from a State College news network announcing that he was transferring to Kentucky.
Attaboy. Yeah, saw that, Ronnie. Saw that really high praise about Shi Smith's time in college either. So seems like Steve Smith has a distinct perspective of South Carolina football at this point. Or at least could have been heard that way by Gamecock fans.
Jeez. All right, I'm pulling up the Steve Smith video.
What's that? You guys didn't hear it. I think it was basically saying that the quote I saw was, "Football is not Jake Bentley's sport."
It's in the middle of the game. He's calling the game, and it's in the middle of a play, and he's just like, I know we're supposed to be talking about the Panthers, but I went to a Utah practice, and football is not his sport. What?
You know, he went to Utah back in the day, right?
Yeah, but why is that coming up in the middle of the Panthers game? It was like
Hey.
in the middle of a play. He brought up Jake Bentley's name.
It's a preseason game. He's getting paid for his opinion. He's dropping them, dropping the hot takes left and right. Steve Smith does not care.
Random. It makes sense if they were playing like the Ravens or something where Tyler Huntley's there and it was topical in any way.
I think it might have been topical off of Shi Smith and South Carolina crew.
Panthers were on defense at the time.
Okay. Maybe completely off topic.
I was trying to see if the wide receiver that caught the pass for the Colts in that play went to Utah, and I don't think he did.
Gotcha. Jen sent you the StreamYard link. All right, let's do your choice here, Beamer Straight On.
After practice, foot started bothering him. He got a ton of tests done this morning. Right now, it's a sprain in that foot. Thank God it's not as serious as we thought. He's questionable, I would say, for the first game right now. It is not season-ending. In the first game, but if he's not, it'll be shortly after that. Luke Doty.
Shane Beamer after Saturday's scrimmage, updating the injury situation that certainly has taken over headlines, and as well as his continued reaction to that. Shane Beamer was talking about anybody who was thinking doom and gloom, and one MRI result would hinge on whether the Gamecocks are going to have a good season or not. Beamer was not hearing any of that, and gets us off to an interesting Monday start for sure. Thanks for being a part of the program. Jordan just joining us on the YouTube live stream, I see. Good morning to you as well, sir. Ronnie brought up Steve Smith's comments about Jake Bentley over the weekend in the Carolina Panthers preseason game where Shi Smith did have his first catch. It was a heck of a catch down the sideline, taking a shot at the same time. Notable for sure there. And that was his only catch, by the way, in the preseason game against the Colts. That final score ended up being the Colts win by a few points if you're really interested in your preseason exhibition NFL scores. I'll get you some more stats on that. 21-18 the final score, Colts over the Panthers. But the Gamecock situation for sure, leading the way right now this morning. Then how Gamecock fans handle this thing. Because it's one thing to lose a guy in preseason camp. It's another thing, I feel like, Patrick, to get this news. And the news was kind of originally reported, I think, this might be that Liz Frank injury where I guess you have that. I don't even know if it's a bone necessarily. It is basically what stabilizes your entire foot on the bottom. If you break that thing, then you just simply can't play for a year. It's how I understood it with Jake Bentley. And the way that it happened with him was getting stepped on kind of in a freak accident. How it seems it kind of has the parallel to Luke Doty as well. Fortunately for Gamecock football, like you just heard from Shane Beamer, seems that it's not going to be that serious, and Doty could even be back for the season opener. So that's why I say this is a much different than the news that Gamecock fans got about this time last year with Marshawn Lloyd, the talented running back, torn ACL out for the year, right? This one is, okay, like Richard said, he's not going to be bummed about the news because he's excited that other guys are going to play quarterback. He hasn't been convinced that Luke Doty's the guy to begin with. To me, this is anything but exciting news for Gamecock football. If nothing else, more from an emotional and leadership standpoint. I know Beamer said that Doty was back in uniform and was at the scrimmage and wasn't missing from that standpoint. But when your leader, your team leader, and Luke Doty has seemed to have become kind of the unquestioned team leader as he starting quarterback role, and just with his personality and the whole thing, a lot like Jake Bentley was back in the day. When your leader goes down, I think it does take an emotional toll on your team in preseason practice. To me, it's going to be almost as interesting to see how that situation gets handled as it is to see what happens on the field, where you have Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier getting the bulk of the snaps. Now you got one guy in Brown as a transfer from an FCS program that most of us had never really heard of before in St. Francis. Then you got another guy in a true freshman coming in, did get in a spring practice, Colton Gauthier did, but comes in as a 3-star quarterback from the state of Georgia with not a ton of recruiting hype, I think is fair. And it seems to be all the evaluations early on. Yeah, it's a lot on a high school kid, just the speed of the game and making that adjustment, as well as just the bulk of a college offense and learning where everybody needs to go and where the ball needs to be in a timely manner. Very difficult thing for a true freshman to come in, ingest, and then show that he has a good grasp on in August going into his true freshman season.
Yeah, and I think Shane Beamer did mention kind of what limitations both of these quarterbacks have. I mean, for Jason Brown, he said the issue for him isn't mental or anything like that. It's just physical. He needed to lose weight. He needed to get faster. And he said he has definitely done that. He's dropped some pounds, and he made a couple plays in the scrimmage where he had to use his feet to evade pressure. So that is the number one thing for him. And for Colton Gauthier, it was, yeah, you were in high school a year ago. A high school offense, even if it's a good high school, compared to what you're going to be running in the Southeastern Conference, is just night and day. And he also mentioned it was huge for him in particular that he was able to come in the spring and get a head start on all of that work, kind of learn the playbook and whatnot, and be as far ahead as he can be. And if he had showed up in the fall, or in the summer, he would have basically had no chance. It was just too much to throw on a kid that quickly. So, I mean, there was like pros and cons to each of them, their biggest issues, and how each of them are kind of working to combat it. So I did appreciate that. And for Luke Doty, from the leadership standpoint, while he's hurt, I mean, that's going to be kind of behind closed doors stuff, but this is just where he needs to buckle down. He needs to just be out there, be vocal during practice. I assume he'll still be out there practicing in a boot. I don't think he mentioned anything about what it's going to be. He said just keeping weight off of it. Maybe he'll be on one of those like carts or whatever that you roll around on. I don't know, or crutches. I don't know how much weight is too much weight, or if a boot will be okay for him, but he'll be out there. He'll be talking to the guys. He needs to be a leader in the film room the next couple of weeks and just not let anything get by him mentally. My biggest concern now is that if Luke Doty comes back, he needs to come back at 100%. I know it's not a Liz Frank, but Liz Frank, and I know something that was also something that like people try to come back too early. I remember it happening with a lot of basketball players, and it just kind of hampers them. Like they'll be able to come back for a couple games, and it's like, all right, well, things soar again, and you got to sit out another couple weeks, and it just always seems to be an issue. That's what I always worry about with foot injuries, because Luke Doty he's not like Tom Brady, where Tom Brady can play a season on a torn MCL because he doesn't leave the pocket. He just gets rid of the ball quickly. Like we've said all off season that Luke Doty's feet are going to be maybe his biggest weapon, or at least his offense biggest weapon this year, because he's going to be able to keep guys guessing. You're going to have people keying on Kevin Harris, and Luke Doty's going to have to pull it out and make a play with his feet sometimes. Sometimes the pocket's going to collapse, and he's going to have to get out there and make a play, whether it's outside the pocket throwing the football or whether it's scrambling and picking up a big first down. Like he is not going to be a stand and work from the pocket guy. I know Richard's comment about wanting to see other guys was he said he didn't think Doty was a D1 caliber thrower. And while I disagree, I do think that just his arm is not what's going to separate him, and it's not what's going to take South Carolina over the top in some of these games, especially when you're going to Athens in week 3 and Georgia's loaded with pass rushers. You're going to have to be able to make things happen on the ground. So that would be my biggest concern, not that we're not going to have him for week 1, just that is he going to be fully healthy? Is this going to be something that is his foot more sensitive now? Like if he gets tackled and somebody lands on his foot, is that going to be a problem? How will it be? Is it going to be taped up? He's going to be like fully wrapped up or something like that. Like I just want to make sure that it's 100%, because he's not going to be it's not like he's going to be avoiding contact for the rest of the season here.
Right, and does it affect play calling when he does get on the field? Are you much more or much less likely to run a quarterback or send him on a rollout or whatever you might have done with a 100% Luke Doty if you've got a guy who's coming back from the sprained foot that Shane Beamer told us about? Again, part of, I think, how this is so interesting from the Gamecock football perspective. Not just that, but also kind of where Richard's at, and he's certainly not the only one that isn't necessarily convinced that Luke Doty is the guy. Well, that's from the outside looking in. Talking to coaches and players, it feels to me like there was not much of a doubt there. There's a reason why Luke Doty was named the starting quarterback after spring, and it wasn't just to have a starting quarterback. It was because he had won the job, and then also because he was the leader for the team. And what you talked about, Patrick, all right, what happens now? How does the rehab mesh with practice time, right? And then how is your team's psyche impacted if your starting quarterback is on a scooter or on crutches, or and if he has the same personality and voice, how is it taken in by players when a guy's not kind of out there and going through it with the blood, sweat, and tears in the same kind of way? I don't mean to paint it completely negatively. I mean, this can be something that also kind of galvanizes the team. You see a guy battle back from an injury and the whole thing, and it can be inspirational in that way. And maybe this earns Luke Doty even more leadership points or kind of toughness points from his teammate standpoint. It's just all part of the mix right now. We just don't know.
Yeah, because I don't really know what kind of leader he is either. I mean, we've seen him talk a lot, but is he that guy that's out there yelling and screaming when the backup offense is on the field? Is he running around waving the towel, supporting people? Like, what is his vibe? Is he just that guy who kind of commands the huddle and leads by example, and people respect him for his game and the way he plays and the way he shows up and works every day? Or is he that kind of rah-rah guy? I think if he's not, he'll probably have to be that guy to an extent when he's on the sideline and can't do much. He'll need to be, a good leader for Colton Gauthier if he's out there taking first team reps and misses something or throws an interception. Then hopefully Doty will be out there pull him aside and tell him what he did wrong, what he saw, what he should have seen, if he read the situation wrong, and hopefully people can look at him and say, yeah, he's not jealous or anything like that. He's just trying to be the best leader he can for the team. So I think it'll be actually a big couple weeks for him in terms of leading the team and people being receptive to that. So yeah, it'll be big. I don't know. I haven't seen enough from Luke Doty. I haven't heard him talk enough to know what his kind of style is. I don't think I've heard anybody else talk about it really, other than they've said, yeah, Luke's our guy and he's our leader right now.
Well, energetic guy, first one in the building kind of thing, leading by example. The fact that he was willing to go to wide receiver at this point last year and do what he had to do to get on the field, I think you earn a bunch of respect for your athleticism. What is it? Game respects game, I think might be the cliche from the player standpoint and in the locker room and the whole deal. And then there is certainly the vocal abilities that Luke Doty has. He can express himself and he's going to put a bunch of sentences together and is not going to be afraid to speak his mind a little bit, is what I've seen in kind of a limited capacity to this point. But taking over the situation last year was tricky, and I thought he handled it about as well as a true freshman could handle it, while showing the proper respect for Colin Hill and taking over that role, and yet still trying to lead his teammates. And how Mike Bobo was leading the team at that point, it wasn't easy, but I thought he did a good job handling it last year. Seems to have done a good job with the new coaching staff and taking over the leadership role in a lot of ways this year. And now it's just another hurdle for Gamecock football to overcome, with Luke Doty spraining his foot, questionable for the opener. Moving forward, Craig, not doom and gloom this morning at all, going, it could be an advantage if the Gamecock quarterback Doty comes back for Georgia and they have limited film on him. I don't think Kirby Smart's going to be surprised by too much that Luke Doty and the Gamecock offense can throw at him. But we have seen strange things happen with Georgia and South Carolina here in the last few years for sure. Anonymous texter on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. I think Coach Beamer did well at his press conference, but I won't feel completely at ease until I hear from Gamecock Larry. Oh, wouldn't you know? Our favorite 87-year-old caller waiting patiently to get on the horn with us and start us off on a Monday morning at 803-404-6100, the same number as that text line. Larry, let's see. You got some words of wisdom.
How are you feeling this morning, especially about the Gamecock football quarterback situation?
Well, I'll tell you how I feel. Well, I said don't worry about the players that we don't have. Just thank the Lord for what we got. We got Coach Beamer and a staff that we did not have last year. Oh, Muskrat and all his, I'm going to say it, Muskrat and a couple of his henchmen are gone. And old Muskrat must have sitting over there in Georgia just waiting for the Gamecocks September the 18th. Doty going to come back in the third game for mop-up duty. We got two quarterbacks, Garcia and Jason Brown, and I always felt like Jason is going to be the starting quarterback instead of Doty, and now I think he's going to be. And then we're going to have some running plays for DK. Old DK going to be the star in the first two games and a star in the third game. We're going to be okay. Gamecock Nation, don't worry. We got a coaching staff that we haven't had since Steve Spurrier. And, well, the first half of the last season he was here, but we ain't had no coaching staff like we got now. We got developers of young men. We're going to be okay. Don't worry about it. That's about all I got to say. And like I say, give the young man a chance to heal up. He is a firebug. He's going to be on that sideline pushing those other players out there. And they're going to be just fine. Don't worry about the Gamecocks. And I'm going to say 12-0. And until we lose one, I'm going to stick to my story. And all I got to say is go Gamecocks. I don't like old Paul Feinbaum anyway, but he's right. I hate to say it, and I don't like neither one of them. But I just hope Clemson runs all over Georgia. I didn't think I'd ever say that, but I do. I just hope Clemson runs all over Georgia because of old Muskrat. Go Gamecocks!
Gamecock Larry fired up this morning. I don't think any of us ever thought we'd hear what we just heard, but hearing Gamecock Larry go off against Georgia, knowing that he was a Dalton, Georgia native for a while, I guess that shouldn't shock me maybe this morning. Yeah, I didn't know that the firebug was a thing. Maybe we'll go look that up. Also, everybody, Gamecock Larry knows that. Everybody knows Gamecock Larry, big software, hardware guy. Hear from Shane Beamer. If you haven't heard that doom and gloom comment, or even if you had, I think it's worth hearing again, and it's worth exploring in so many ways, because I don't think we've seen a Gamecock football coach handle things like this in a long, long time, if we have at all. That's coming up next. It's the early game. That's 107.5 The Game. You're on mute, sir. Oh, boy. Sorry about not sending the link to you there, Jen. I'm a little slow. Carl, do you know Luke Doty's ankles weren't taped? And And I don't understand, Patrick, why of the ESPN.com article am I reading that he has a sprained ankle? Like that doesn't Shane Beamer said that at all.
Was that in any of the initial reports that were wrong?
Not that I saw.
Yeah,
Just-
I mean, you can taper your ankle and still get your foot stepped on.
It's a different deal, Carl. Different deal. You can't just explain away every football injury, man. Sometimes it happens. Big stuff. I'm sure some people will blame it on Under Armour cleats.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I don't
What'd you see, Patrick?
see anything about his ankle. A lot of people saying it. Coyote, in parentheses, ankle, questionable for opener.
Yeah,
But
it's not
none
what
real
Beamer said at all. Yep, saw that, Casey. Looked like Thompson was playing safety on that play to me. Kind of came over the top anyway, I thought. That play. First day of school here at my house.
Are your kids bus riders?
No, they would have had to already be on the bus, I think, if they were doing that. I think they're going to ride it home. I'll be moving my car here after the next break.
How far is the bus stop?
Bus stop's not far. School's not far from where we are, so we're in as about a good shape as we can get. Morning, sunny.
Minimize the degree of a sprain. I mean, I don't know.
Did you see this golf story?
Which one?
The Corn Ferry Tour guy.
Was he different than the hole-in-one guy?
I didn't see the hole in one guy.
I saw a guy do a hole-in-one and do the weirdest jump celebration I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
That was Hadley, Chesson Hadley.
No. Let me look it up.
What happened with this guy? Well, he won a tournament.
Yeah, he won, and it got him his PGA Tour card, I believe. Skins is his last name. Great name, by the way.
He won a PGA tournament.
No, he won the Corn Ferry Tour tournament, which I think earned him his PGA Tour card. As it finished up, if you finish in the top 25, you get a PGA Tour card. So I think by winning the tournament, he finished in the top 25. Like 8 months ago, he was doing DoorDash, I think, just to help support his
Come back
family.
in.
Been playing for 16 years. Let's do the doom and gloom one, please, Jed. Thank you.
Doom and gloom. Saw and heard a lot about how the hopes of our season hinged on the results of an MRI, and frankly, that's bullcrap. We've got a hell of a football team, and whether one guy's in or out, we got 117 other guys that are ready to step up no matter who's out. We got Kevin Harris out right now. We haven't it's not doom and gloom right now. It's a great opportunity for everybody else. Cam Smith is out right now. He's working hard to get back and to overcome that. And we got a great group of guys that, frankly, I'm glad they don't listen to the outside narrative, because the outside narrative, from what I was told today, was all doom and gloom and the season's over and, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? What we would have done if we had gotten bad news on Luke is we would have come right out here and had a hell of a scrimmage this afternoon and got ready for Eastern Illinois, which is exactly what we did. Luke feels the same way. The entire team is excited about what we have going on. The entire team is excited about where we are as a program right now and what we're doing in preseason. The entire team is excited and cannot wait for practice this week and then September 4th in Williams-Brice Stadium.
Shane Beamer, reacting as about as strongly as you can to the news that your starting quarterback has a sprained foot, out several weeks, questionable for the season opener, and then the response. To me, that's as strong a preseason message as we heard from Gamecock football coaches. I can't tell you when. I don't remember a Steve Spurrier message like that, certainly not from Will Muschamp. And then Lou Holtz back in the day. To me, this, I believe, is a bit of an insight, Patrick, of who Shane Beamer will be as the head football coach for Gamecock football. It's a really interesting early test, kind of the first sign of adversity.
I got hung up on the frankfully at the beginning. Did you hear that? It's kind of a great word that I might try to implement into my vocabulary.
Especially if your dad's a legendary head coach of the first game, Frank. Anthony says, I think we might be all right with this Beamer guy. I think what you heard there from Shane Beamer is very encouraging from a Gamecock football perspective, but also I know that, like you said a little bit earlier on, Patrick, that this is kind of what a football coach, how he has to see things at this point. Like, what you're not going to expect, oh yeah, this is doom and gloom and the whole thing. I do feel like, though, Will Muschamp would have been maybe more emotional on the other side of it and frustrated, right? Or a little bit woe is me, as opposed to the strong, firm stance the other way that we just heard from Shane Beamer.
Yeah, there's 21 other guys starting for you on any given time. So you wouldn't be a good football coach if you just said, you know what, guys, pack it up. Doty's out. We're probably not going to be able to win any games this season. I mean, there's too much other stuff to worry about when you're a football coach. You can't focus on one guy. That's what we do.
Interested in hearing your opinions out there as we continue to roll on. We're rolling into hour number 2, 803-404-6100, the number. Luke Doty out for the opener, possibly sitting there questionable with a sprained foot. Hour 2 coming up here on the early. All right, time for me to move a car. Be right.
Hi. On camera. How cute is that? I have been spoiling my girlfriend's dog this weekend. She didn't get fat before she goes back. You're muted. Huh?
What'd you
So
say?
I've been spoiling my girlfriend's dog. There's a dog right here. Can you even see?
Yeah.
I was giving her French fries yesterday, milk bounds. We spent a lot of time at the dog park.
That's
She's getting
awesome.
spoiled.
How old is the pup?
She's like 2.
Oh, okay.
She's so small.
No kidding. Here, come see. Yeah, let me see. Oh, it's a little schnauzer.
She did a DNA test, and that's what we thought. But she was like some Schnauzer, and then like a lot Chiweenie. She's got some Chihuahua in her. She's got some Dachshund in her.
I was like, because those ears, yeah.
Yep.
Dachshundish. Yeah.
She's usually very vocal, which might be where the Chihuahua comes in.
Could be. But yeah, definitely. No. Don't forget to focus on me. Oh. How awesome.
She is very sweet, though.
How long is she staying with you?
Yep. I'm going to miss
How
having her
long?
around. Oh, she was just for the weekend.
Oh, okay.
I would have kept her for the whole 2 weeks. My girlfriend moved last weekend,
Right.
but she's working at a hotel, so she's staying in the hotel for the first 2 weeks before she can get her apartment.
Okay.
So next weekend she'll come back and bring Polly with her.
Aw.
I would have loved to have her for the whole 2 weeks, but she would not do well while I was at work all night and
Yeah.
not being able to have anybody take her out.
Yeah, that does make a difference.
So we'll hang out today, and then before I go to work tonight, I'll drop her back off.
Pretty awesome to have around.
Yeah. I've never thought of having like a little dog, but I do like just being able to pick her up all the time.
Yeah.
My dogs at home are like 40 pounds, so they're like not big, but you can't just pick them up and walk around with them.
Yeah. That's how ours are. Even bigger. So I do kind of miss that, just being able to scoop them up and whatever.
Yep.
I mean, you can, but you'll get a workout out of ours. All right, let me keep cutting this stuff.
Oh. What? How was wrestling there? Oh, sorry about. What's the dog's name, by the way?
Polly.
Polly.
Yep. Named after Along Came Polly.
Oh wow. Named after Jennifer Aniston, is that right?
Yep.
Picture I saw didn't look like there were a bunch of people there at the old CLA last night. You ever been to wrestling in person, Patrick?
No. I would kind of like to. I never know what. So, was the WWE that was here like all the main guys? Like, was Roman Reigns in Colombia?
Yeah, me.
I know he's the big star at the moment. Yes, Waddy, let us know. I know my dad went to one. He like won tickets one year for a WWE show, and he said that the way they set it up was like everyone basically just sat in one section, and the cameras only faced one direction, so that it looked like it was a packed environment, but there's actually just no one there.
Right. Like it's a TV show or something.
Yeah.
Waddy says the lower bowl was pretty full. Yeah, Reigns and John Cena both there.
Yeah, nice. I know they're squaring off soon. I don't know if that might have been what just happened, but I know McAfee's on the WWE now. Is that what he was doing?
Oh yeah. No.
He's like one of the main. He's like the main color guy, I think, for WWE.
Huh.
Was it on the 13th?
What's that?
Was it on the 13th? Is that what night?
No, last
SmackDown?
night I think.
Oh.
It could have been Saturday night. So we got
I have no idea how that works.
3 breaks this hour, sir.
Got
It's called leadership, John. Coming in strong to start hour number 2, talking about Shane Beamer's reaction to the news over the weekend. Luke Doty, starting quarterback at South Carolina, officially questionable now for the season opener on September 4th against Eastern Illinois. Sprained foot after tests. I guess relieving Gamecock coaches and the program in general. They feared it was worse than that to begin with. His foot was stepped on in the last play of the scrimmage, or certainly one of the last plays of the Friday practice, I should say, where Doty ended up continue on and running for a touchdown, but stepped on by an offensive lineman, as I understand it. Sprained foot, moving forward for a couple of weeks, probably going to be out. And then where does this leave the Gamecock football program? Shane Beamer said the doom and gloom crowd can basically shove it, and he has no time for that. Papa Joe on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Here's hoping Beamer blocks out the entire outside narrative. No one's going to believe in this team until we start getting some wins. I understand where he's coming from this, Joe, but as a head football coach, you don't have that luxury to block the entire public narrative. And I think part of what Shane Beamer was doing on Saturday in his response to this news, or his first time talking about it, was to try to lead Gamecock fans into supporting their team, as opposed to wringing their hands or giving up or whatever some might have chosen to do otherwise. And it's interesting on so many different levels, Patrick, because you got Shane Beamer dealing with his first adversity as a head football coach at South Carolina. You had this combined with Karan Prunty, the freshman All-American defensive back transfer from Kansas, coming in and already transferring out. And we heard from him for the first time on this on Saturday as well. Usually that would be absolutely headlining news, right? I don't know how many minutes it took to get a comment from Shane Beamer, the first question about that on Saturday's press conference, but it was definitely more than 5. I would say maybe more than 10 to 15. It took a while because that just wasn't the main news anymore. Jen, did you tell me it's 12? Took 12 minutes?
12 minutes in.
Thank you, Jen. That's why she's one of the best producers in the business. I mentioned that simply to say that's a big injury, big story as well. It's just that was Friday's topic of discussion. That's kind of old news at this point, but still part of the early adversity that Shane Beamer's dealing with as Gamecock preseason practice rolls into week number 2 here. And forget which, I think it was the Colts, actually. We talked about it a little bit. The Colts having Carson Wentz, and then one of the best offensive linemen, if not their best offensive lineman, has a same kind of similar freak injury where it was a foot condition that kind of popped up out of nowhere, and a piece of a bone goes through there, and then all of a sudden they had it all their life, and then all of a sudden they need surgery and they're out 5 to 7 weeks. And the way way you want to start preseason practice, but Frank Reich at the time said, hey, we're going to deal with adversity. We're going to do it right now. And that's the way he chose to lead. And Shane Beamer, I think, doing something similar. The interesting part about this, and I guess it does have some parallels with the Colts, is that I'm sure not all fans are convinced that Carson Wentz is going to be the guy at quarterback to lead them to the promised land. Richard, already one of the first Gamecock fans in here, and somebody suggested maybe he's a Tiger fan in disguise, but said that he's not pessimistic. He's pulling for Doty to get better, but he doesn't think Doty is an SEC quarterback to begin with, so he's excited to see either Jason Brown, the transfer from St. Francis, or Colton Gauthier, the true freshman from the state of Georgia. It is quite the notable Monday morning, I think, for Gamecock football moving forward. What stands out the most for you, Patrick, as we sit here at 7:07 in the basically the right middle of August 16th, with the news coming out over the weekend?
What stands out the most? I don't know. I guess just I wonder, like, what is the best case scenario now? Like, is the best case scenario that Luke Doty comes back week 1? I don't know that he's been ruled out in any way. He hasn't been ruled out. He's just questionable, but I don't know that they would, push him to play week 1. Does he sit week 1 and Jason Brown just absolutely light it up, and then we're going to have a quarterback controversy the whole year because their backup quarterback's always the most popular guy in town, unless you have one of like the guys. I don't think the backup quarterback at Clemson's the most popular guy in town right now, and there's other schools like that. But is that what you're looking for? Are people looking for, like Craig suggested earlier on the live stream, wait 3 weeks and then just throw Luke Doty at them and at Georgia, and they won't know what's coming? They're not going to know what hit them. I just don't know. But one of my big concerns, I guess, until Beamer said that he'd already been taking snaps at quarterback, was, is this now going to affect the wide receiver position? Because I've been anti-cross training. Maybe I was just jaded from Muschamp, but I've been anti-cross training for years, and I just didn't like Doty playing wide receiver last year. I don't like Dakereon Joyner playing quarterback right now if it means that it's taking away from his ability to play wide receiver. But in the press conference, Beamer did say that he's been taking snaps already at quarterback. So that does kind of get me excited because maybe he can have some wildcat snaps. We've been saying for the last 3 years that Muschamp should have something for Dakereon Joyner, whether it's 5 plays a game, whether it's just put him out there once every couple of weeks, just something to keep the defense guessing because he's so dynamic. So I don't want this to spill over into other positions and hurt other groups. But I do kind of like the idea that we're now going to have kind of a two-headed monster at quarterback.
97%, I think, is something that needs to be put out there very clearly at times about Dakereon Joyner's time at wide receiver versus time at quarterback. Wanted to let you hear exactly what Shane Beamer had to say about his thought process, at least on Saturday after a scrimmage, about his starting quarterback position.
Now and away we go. We haven't. We're nowhere near that point right now.
How did he down? Do you want to call for 5?
Colton and Connor got a ton of reps today and did a lot of really good things. So we'll go in here as soon as I finish this. We'll get back over across the street and watch the practice video as an offensive staff, defensive staff, special team staff, and see how guys played. And we are about competition and we play in 3 weeks, and there's a whole lot can happen between now and September 4th.
Including what might happen with Luke Doty's foot, his health, obviously a main concern. What happens now with Luke Doty and his rehab? Here's Shane Beamer's perspective on that.
Based on what it's been explained to me, is kind of letting him rest that foot here for the next couple weeks and not have much activity on it at all, and then come back here in a couple weeks and see where he is. I'm not a doctor. From what I understand, Connor Shaw had a similar injury when he was a player here, and I think Connor came back pretty quickly from it, 2 or 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, and played. So Luke's not Connor, and every injury is different. I understand that, but we got a fantastic medical team, and if anybody's going to come back from this thing quickly it'll be Luke.
And Shane Beamer Saturday after a scrimmage where I guess there were several turnovers forced by his defense. He was encouraged by that. And on the other side of that, wants his offense to protect the football a little bit more. But clearly the headlining news over the weekend was an injury to Luke Doty's foot. They're calling it a sprained foot at this point at the end of Friday's practice. And now what do you do with the quarterback position moving forward after what you just heard there, Patrick? What do you think Gamecock football practice will do? How is this going to evolve in the next several weeks?
Well, I think it might be good in the sense that you're just gonna have a lot of competition for the next few weeks. I think that's gonna be kind of the theme, is just competition until week one. With Luke Doty there, it's just let's get everything straightened out. Let's mind our P's and Q's and dot our I's and cross all our T's. All the just be sharp, do all those things. But now you got two different guys that are going for the number one spot. So I think they'll both get probably a pretty even amount of number one reps. And it'll be a competition atmosphere. Put each of them with the first team, see how they do, and just let them battle it out. Hopefully Luke Doty gets healthy. Hopefully he remains the vocal leader and works with everybody, and that doesn't really change the mindset of the team. But just having two guys that are hungry out there the whole time and just fighting for that number one spot week one, I think it'll be pretty good for the whole overall practice vibe, when clearly every job is up for grabs. That's what every coach says at the beginning of the year, but the quarterback spot is always different, and you want to have a leader in that spot. So they announced Luke Doty being the starter early. It's not going to hurt anything, I don't think.
RL says, I'm fine with fans expressing concern about injuries and depth. The doom and gloom fans come by their pessimism through witnessing recent history and the present. It is 8 losses in each of the last 2 seasons. There certainly has been some disappointing years here recently. Gamecock football, I think when Steve Spurrier came in, traditionally a 500 program with the one conference championship in the ACC back in 1969 and the one SEC East Division championship. But I think that's what anyone who has had the job understands, has no reflection on what happens tomorrow. None. And that's what they try to overcome. And that's what Shane Beamer was trying to, I think, point people towards, or make sure to avoid any type of narrative of doom and gloom. And the way that he did it certainly has at least one texter here saying he sounded like Dabo Sweeney. And he's hoping for Dabo-like results to follow. That's exactly who it reminded me of. We'll play that doom and gloom clip for you when we come back and continue to discuss this situation in a variety of different ways. We'll get into the other position groups that Shane Beamer discussed as well, and everything you need to know about Gamecock football as we roll on this morning. Love to hear more of your thoughts at 803-404-6100. It's the early game. It's 107.5 p.m. Guys, thing just happened. My wife literally is putting the keys away right now, coming back from having dropped the 8-year-old and 6-year-old off at school. Up, she's taking the baby monitor right now as we speak. So a little bit more room around the house. Maybe a little bit of time for Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning to actually come in and help us out again, get our house back to its freshest and new feel that it's done before. The Zero Res has been out to my house a couple of times, done a great job cleaning our carpets, cleaned an area rug for us, pressured up the tile in the kitchen and the bathroom. But with the 8-year-old and 6-year-old and now the 1+-year-old, our house is ready for another one. Let Zero Res do for you what they've done for me and what they will continue to do for me. That is, get great professional looking results, but do it differently than anybody else. No harsh chemicals involved in the Zero Res patented powered water cleaning system. Also, no leftover soapy residue. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. And they've got a great summer sale for you right now as the back to school. It literally might be happening for you in real time like it's happening for me. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, $119 right now, plus a free hallway. When you mention me, Tim Hill, just give Zero Res a call at 803-262-4020. ZeroResColumbia.com is the website where you can book your appointment right now. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. So you brought the dog to combat the back to school kids story. I like it. We're trying. What else can we get some? Yeah, I think we're good. I don't know what else we could do. Maybe some cheesy music, some slow-mo cameras going as well. Is that a little globe? Is that what you got there?
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
I mean, that's what I have at my like desk. Just big on maps and globes. That's why I got the map right behind me. That's what I want my like if I have an office in my life, a home office, that's what's gonna be. It's just maps.
Yeah, my 6-year-old's big on the maps, man. He loves that stuff. We've got the old map of the world as one of basically in our family room.
Could you fill in a U.S. map?
Yes. I don't know if I would go 50 for 50, but I'd get pretty close.
How many do you think you could get? If I said over 45, you'd feel comfortable?
No, I'd probably screw it up, especially in New England.
Yeah, I know that I could get 48, but Vermont and New Hampshire is the one that always screws me up. They're like the same thing, the same shape basically, just flipped on top of each other. So I never know which one's which.
Yeah, I don't care enough about where those states are, particularly in New England. To
I've had to drive through them, so I at least know what the states leading up. I know Maine is at the top, and then I know Vermont, New Hampshire right under. But I've had to drive through Connecticut and stuff on the way to Boston.
yeah, and then capitals, I have confidence I could get more than 45 of those right. Not exactly position them correctly in the state, but I could get the names right.
Yeah, I think I can get most of them.
What do you got for Missouri?
What do I got for Missouri?
Capital of Missouri.
Oh, it's not Columbia, is it? No. St. Louis. It's not St. Louis. It's 2 words.
2 words.
Jefferson City.
Attaboy. It's me.
Yes.
Oh, did Chris help you out with that?
I think he just put it in.
So, Jen, I want to come back and do a liner and then go to the doom and gloom.
Okay.
I was actually teaching Whit Muschamp the state capitals when I was coaching them in lacrosse because he was hurt for the whole season, or at least until COVID shut our season down. So he was just standing around like touching balls, and I would just quiz him on state capitals all day.
I bet he had Florida's right.
Yeah, you got Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina, right?
Right. Georgia. Morning, Alan. What do you think? Patrick, you up for the next Zero Res live spot tomorrow?
Yeah, perfect. No accents though. She's probably gone out more than she's ever gone out.
Nice.
I would be too worried about it. I made sure to take her out. I got up extra early today so that she wouldn't have to like whine at me during the show. We went out for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes at 5 a.m.
So will you call for it, or am I going straight in with doom and gloom?
I'll call for it.
Everything's fair game. That's probably the biggest thing is just trying to get the game to slow down. But Colton is athletic. It's important to him. He's got great arm talent, and that's what I've seen. And then to answer your question about DK, I mean, that's what I've seen. That's what I've seen. It's just his ability to make plays. That's what I've seen. It's just his ability to make.
Broadcasting live from the Heritage Chevrolet. This is 107.5 The Game. At Heritage Chevrolet, we need your trade. We'll buy your car, even if you don't buy ours. Download the TuneIn app so you can take 107.5 The Game with you wherever you go. And now, back to the early game. For better or worse, with Tim and Bill.
Guys are up.
Bill going to fill in for Heath Klein this afternoon from 4 to 7. Tim Hill, Patrick Perrette, Jim Jensen with you on the early game. Wanted to remind you of the Friday, August 27th, 14th anniversary, 107.5 The Game Golf Tournament out at Charwood Golf Club. 10 o'clock, we're going to tee off with the four-person Captain's Choice event where the winner will get a trip to Kiowa. Going to raffle off a pair of tickets to that Gamecock football season opener against Eastern Illinois. Got Panera Breakfast, Little Pig's Lunch. Going to raise some money for Camp Cole. Going to be a good time out there, including a grand prize worth $10,000. Prizes for all four par threes in the mix. Just give Charwood a call to register right now. 803-755-2000. That's the 14th anniversary 107.5 The Game Golf Tournament presented by Integrated Media, also sponsored by Buford Lending, and trophies provided courtesy of the Trophy and Awards Center located at 5347 Sunset Boulevard over in Lexington. A couple of college football starting quarterback notes from the weekend. Kentucky has named a starter, former Penn State now transfer. Will Levis is going to be the starting quarterback, take over for touchdown Terry there, and is a guy who played some running back at Penn State, so he can run the football. Will Levis named the starting quarterback, Penn State transfer at Kentucky, and it's a transfer starting quarterback for Notre Dame as well. The kicker comes that he's going to play against his old team immediately. Jack Cohn named the starter by Brian Kelly up at Notre Dame. Notre Dame starts its season against Wisconsin, Cohn former team where he got beat out by Graham Mertz. Interesting matchup there. And the most interesting news as it pertains to us is there is no starting quarterback right now for Gamecock football for the season opener. That's because Luke Doty officially questionable going into that thing. Shane Beamer dealing with his first round of adversity in a couple of different ways and talking about the Doty injury and the response that followed very strongly after his scrimmage comments or in his scrimmage comments after the Saturday workout for Gamecock football. Here's Shane Beamer.
There was a lot that doom and gloom. Saw and heard a lot about
Tiny time.
hopes of our season. The results of an MRI, and frankly, that's bullcrap. We've got a hell of a football team, and whether one guy's in or out, we got 117 other guys that are ready to step up no matter who's out. We got Kevin Harris out right now. We haven't it's not doom and gloom right now. It's a great opportunity for everybody else. Cam Smith is out right now. He's working hard to get back and to overcome that. And we got a great group of guys that, frankly, I'm glad they don't listen to the outside narrative, because the outside narrative, from what I was told today, was all doom and gloom and the season's over and, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? What we would have done if we had gotten bad news on Luke is we would have come right out here and had a hell of a scrimmage this afternoon and gotten ready for Eastern Illinois, which is exactly what we did. Luke feels the same way. The entire team is excited about what we have going on. The entire team is excited about where we are as a program right now and what we're doing in preseason.
5 up.
Our team is excited and cannot wait for practice this week and then September 4th in Williams-Brice Stadium, myself included.
Shane Beamer dealing with starting quarterback officially questionable now for the season opener. Interesting comment on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line from Michael. Has it occurred to any of you Gamecock fans that Luke Doty was not that good last year? Your best quarterback might be a backup. That's exactly what our first Gamecock fan weighed in and said. Richard, who was accused of being a Tiger, he said no, actually walked on for the Gamecocks back in the day for 3 years. He said he's looking forward to seeing either Jason Brown or Colton Gauthier because he thinks that gives them a better chance to win. I think that's awfully premature and just a classic mindset of the backup quarterback being the most popular guy on campus. To me, this is the first test for Shane Beamer and his new coaching staff. We've heard, I feel like they have passed the opening tests, the beginning, the welcome press.
The putting the coaching staff together, kind of coming up with an identity, Patrick. One that we haven't seen kind of have to form before our eyes since Brad Scott took over way back as a first-time coach in the 90s, late 80s. We just haven't seen that because Lou Holtz comes in and says, hey, we got to change the culture. You got to get to winning national championships. That's what I have done. That's who I am. Steve Spurrier, similar type deal. Will Muschamp had the reputation. Say what you will about Will Muschamp coming off that Florida tenure. I get it. Didn't work out. But he still had the reputation of being a really good defensive coordinator and a really good recruiter within the SEC. Shane Beamer comes in and you don't know. You know, he's been an assistant coach for 21 years. You know, his dad's a college football Hall of Famer at Virginia Tech. But first-time head coach, promising to put together an elite staff. And from the fan standpoint, who are these guys again? Who are you hiring? Very little SEC experience, especially compared to the Will Muschamp model, which was to get guys who've been in the league nearly forever, their entire careers, and just have them switch logos on the shirt. Well, Shane Beamer's told us that South Carolina, the coaching staff, is going to be much more about selling you on something that you could be sold at any other place. It's going to be unique. And what we just heard from Beamer, to me, Patrick, is a great example of that. How I think Shane Beamer has already put his personal stamp before the Gamecocks have obviously even played a snap under him, that this program moving forward will be different. Now, doesn't equate success, but to me, I think it sets this program up for much more success than the previous regime just because of handling it in a unique way, one that has the opportunity to stand out in a positive way. My goal is this assessment just based off of what we just heard.
No, I mean, and he talked about what you see all over the building is just the word love and what was it? What was the other phrase? Love and
above all else.
Above all else, yeah. So yeah, you're not just trying to do another version of what the typical SEC model, which is essentially the Nick Saban model and has trickled down to everyone else, has become. You're not trying to do the same thing that Kirby Smart is doing in Georgia with just not less resources, but I guess a smaller talent pool and less history. You're not kind of doing like a store brand version of what the powerhouses of this conference are doing. You're doing something unique, and just because you've never heard of Clayton White because he came from Western Kentucky, just because you've never heard of Marcus Satterfield because his last job was the assistant offensive line coach of the Carolina Panthers, just because you haven't heard of these guys doesn't make them any less smart on the football field, doesn't make them any less qualified of coaches. It's just different. So I think you heard him go on a nice little rant there, and a nice little rant when he was asked why have you guys been able to retain so many guys? Obviously, you just lost Prunty, but you've done a good job keeping guys around, and they've all seemed to really buy in. And we've heard kids say, "Look, I came here. I loved Will Muschamp. That's the reason I'm here." I think you heard Jordan Birch say that. I had a great relationship with him and his family. But I came to this school, Marshawn Lloyd said, I came to this school, and it does feel like they've fully bought into everything that this staff is selling. So, yeah, maybe it doesn't translate to all the wins this year because you still need to restock the talent pool in this team. But in the long term, I do think it's healthier to have your own identity, to be your own thing, and not try to do what everybody else has done and had success with. There's more than one way to win in college football.
No doubt about it. Nobody had heard of Nick Saban or Dabo Sweeney before somebody gave them a chance also. I think the Dabo Sweeney comparison is definitely accurate. Nick Saban in Alabama, he'd already won a national championship at LSU and kind of worked his way up through the ranks and gotten a tremendous defensive reputation. But yeah, everybody does it differently from their ascension to head coach for sure. Jeff on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, Shane Beamer hasn't heard doom and gloom yet. And the better Richard texts in, says, how much of what Coach Beamer had to say was directed at his own team? It's a good question. I don't think we can be sure. We certainly have seen a bunch of coaches do that. I mean, all coaches do that to some degree, Patrick. Steve Spurrier, I thought, really good and experienced at it, knowing when to send a message through the media and when not to. What do you think? How much of what we just heard was directed at the Gamecock players within the building?
I don't know that it was directed. I think he's going to go in there and say the same thing. Like, I think if he'll talk to his defensive players, or at least Clayton White will say, you see this? Everybody thinks the season's over because our quarterback's out. Like, this is something that should motivate everyone else. And you hear it a lot. Like, guys play better with the backup quarterback in. Sometimes guys will just randomly make plays. I mean, you saw with the Philadelphia Eagles, like Alshon Jeffrey was like inhuman for half the season when Nick Foles was in there, just coming down with everything thrown his way. Like, guys block harder for the backup quarterback because they feel like they need to do more because there's no one there to bail them out. I don't know that he was sending a message to the media, but I was thinking about that, like how that's part of being a coach and being a motivator is when to use the media, when to use the outside narrative. I think it was maybe Papa Joe that said, I hope they're not listening to any of the outside narrative. And yeah, I mean, I guess in a perfect world, and I think that's kind of what Muschamp tried to do. I was thinking about if Muschamp was handling this situation with Doty, what would we be hearing? So he'd probably say we expect Luke back for week 1, but if not, we're going to have other guys ready, and he tries to handle everything inside the building and not talk about anything we probably wouldn't hear from anyone else. But you always want to use the media when it helps. Like comparisons to Dabo, I mean, Dabo for sure uses the media narrative. Dabo's standing there after winning a national championship and being the preseason #1 team in the country saying, little old Clemson, nobody thought we could do it. And we're like, dude, you were the unanimous #1 team in the country. What are you talking about? So, yeah, everybody handles it differently. Some guys try to keep everything in their building. Some guys, like Shane Beamer, is on Twitter all the time. He can't pretend like he doesn't know what's being said, whereas Will Muschamp, I think, could kind of plead ignorance in that way a little bit more.
What about the quarterback position now, moving forward? That's what we're going to hear from Shane Beamer, the plan in the next several weeks for Gamecock football. When we come back, kick off the second half of the show. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
Jay-Z and Michael Rubin are teaming up to open up the sportsbook in New York.
Who's that?
Jay-Z and Michael Rubin.
It definitely seems to be where things are going. Still get Sports Illustrated at the house. It's their gambling issue they just announced.
Sports Illustrated did? What does that mean? Like handicapping the football season?
I think just kind of exploring where sports gambling is overall right now in multiple ways.
When is it going to be legal in the state? Is there even anyone pushing for it in any way?
Question, not sure.
I don't think I've ever seen anything about a representative saying, "Yeah, we're fighting to legalize sports gambling in South Carolina."
I think Bill is our resident expert on that.
Yeah, I've never voted in this state. I don't even know what representatives it is are. Steve Benjamin's the mayor. That's about it. McMaster's the governor.
I don't think I definitely haven't voted on anything gambling wise. I don't think that's how it would come up.
I don't know enough about it. Is it like always going to be a state thing, or at some point they're just going to say, yeah, sports gambling is legal in America?
Good question.
It'd be pretty cool to have a casino in downtown Columbia, though. I would like that.
Good luck with that.
Or just a, I guess it'll never happen in a college town, but lots of arenas are going to have little pay stations now.
Wow. Now this story about the Corn Ferry guy is pretty awesome. So I'll probably say it on air later on, but this dude on the Corn Ferry Golf Tour, David Skins is his name, originally from England, 16-year pro, 39 years old. During COVID, lived in Georgia, was doing DoorDash to help support his family still. Was 82nd on the money list, on the points list, on the Corn Ferry Tour a month ago. And with yesterday's win, one putting the last 4 holes, jumped into the top 25, and so gets his PGA Tour card for next season. Crazy. In his last 20 rounds, he was out of the 60s once. One time did he not get in the 60s in his last 20 rounds is how good he is.
What does it mean financially for you to get your PGA Tour card?
I think it doesn't do a ton for you. There are plenty of guys out there who are retired from golf in their 30s even that had their tour card for a year. But it just gives you the opportunity to play in the PGA events.
Does everybody that plays in a PGA event make something?
No. You don't make the cut, you don't make money.
Not even like $100.
No. So that's why it guarantees you nothing.
So you can lose a lot of money on the PGA Tour.
Oh yeah. I mean, to be a professional golfer, you basically have to have investors back you as a business.
Yeah.
At least that's how I understand it. Unless, you're one of these guys who comes out of college and wins an event or finishes really high in an event immediately and you're kind of set that way, which is very much the exception as opposed to the rule.
Yeah, because I know a lot of these guys spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
the big guys, they don't stay in hotels. They fly private and rent a house for a weekend and just live.
Yeah, you have to invest in your week, right? And then when you don't make the cut, you lost your investment.
Heading back in.
All right, Jen, let's start. I'll set it up again, and then we'll do. We'll do number 6 first, and then I'll call for number 7. Okay?
Okay. All right, you guys are up.
Luke Doty, starting quarterback, questionable now with a foot sprain that happened Friday's practice. Shane Beamer talked about it on Saturday. Hear from him in just a second. First, wanted to give you the heads up this Friday. Our buddies over at Gamecock Central having a kickoff party over at Steel Hands Brewing. Heath Klein going to be live on location from 4 to 7 this Friday. The celebration includes locker room stories for former Gamecock players, the craft beer from Steel Hands Brewing, prize giveaway, live music from Patrick Davis and the Midnight Choir. The pregame starts when Heath Klein kicks off at 4 o'clock. The player roundtables and guest speakers at 7, and the music with Patrick Davis and that Midnight Choir at 8:30. Again, all this Friday over at Steel Hands Brewing in Casey, the Gamecock Central preseason football party. Here's Shane Beamer now talking about, okay, with Luke Doty out, who's going to get the snaps at first-team quarterback? On Saturday, it happened to be St. Francis transfer, the senior, and Jason Brown. Here's what Beamer had to say about Brown.
Jason, he knew coming out of the spring that he needed to get in better shape, and he did a fantastic job over the summer, running extra, losing weight. His body looks different than what he did. Got himself out of trouble today, and some scramble situations and make some plays. So that's Jason. It's just his
body, how athletic. He's more athletic he's gotten because he's lost some weight. He can move in the pocket a little bit better. And then with him, it's just, understanding the offense and not just what he's doing, but conceptually what everybody else is doing. He makes plays when he's in there. I mean, you guys saw it in the spring game, some of the throws that he made and whatnot. So he produces. He's got experience at the college level starting as a quarterback. So he just needs to get more in this offense and what we're doing.
So Jason Brown with college experience as a transfer coming up a level. The other option right now for the Gamecocks, the other guys taking the bulk of the reps, was a guy who doesn't have college football experience and true freshman from the state of Georgia, 3-star recruit Colton Gauthier. Here's some of what Shane Beamer had to say about Gauthier.
And then with Colton, that's probably the biggest thing is just, offensively understanding everything that we're doing. It's different in the springtime. In the springtime, we would practice on a Tuesday. He'd be able to come in the afternoon if he wanted to and watch the video with Sat. Then we had an off day on Wednesday in the spring after practice. He'd watch the video. He could really study what was going in the next day. Then he'd come in on Thursday. We'd get ready for that practice and meetings, and then he'd go out there and practice. And you had 15 of them. Now we're moving every day fast and just trying to keep up with everything and the offense that's coming at him because, we got to get everything installed. It's, let's scale back. Let's get what we're going to do. Let's go execute. And obviously we're not going to carry into a game plan every play we have in our offense. We're going to do what gives us the best chance to be successful that Saturday.
That's Shane Beamer after Saturday's scrimmage, after the news that Luke Doty is going to be out for an extended period of time, I think is the fair way to put it. 2 to 3 weeks. It seems like kind of minimum at this point. Questionable for the season opener on September 4th against Eastern Illinois. Patrick, you just heard Shane Beamer discussing Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier. What's your feeling?
How this thing is going to work out? Who do you think ends up getting more reps, and who would be the guy if Luke Doty can't go?
I would think it would probably be Jason Brown at this point. It's just less of a step up for him. Obviously, the SEC and FCS are almost two different worlds, but we've seen guys come from – we saw over the weekend Trey Lance come from the FCS and jump right onto an NFL field and play pretty darn well. So it's not like guys haven't made such a substantial leap before, and it's just a lot for Colton Gauthier. I think he is looked at as more of a long-term plan here, a long-term investment for the program, and they don't want to throw too much at him if they don't have to. I would think against Eastern Illinois, hopefully, if Luke Doty's not ready, you'll see both of them. Hopefully it's not too much of a challenge, and you can see maybe Jason Brown come out and play 3 quarters or half a game, and you can basically dominate that game with your ground attack with Marshawn Lloyd, with Kevin Harris, and you'll be okay. But I just feel like Jason Brown probably has the edge. He got, I think, more time in the spring game. I don't even remember Colton Gauthier doing anything in the spring game. Now that I'm thinking back on it, did he do anything?
I think he threw 3 passes.
Okay, I don't even recall him being on the field. So, Jason Brown fired everybody up with the touchdown pass to E.J. Jenkins, and I just think he's probably going to be the guy. He got a little bit of buzz. I saw something about him being like a number 20 ranked NFL draft prospect. So I don't know. People at least are talking about him, and at least his attitude I've seen on social media. Kind of laughed earlier in the offseason because he had put out some tweets like people are sleeping on him by not calling him one of the best transfer quarterbacks in the country. And I was like, dude, you're not even supposed to be the starter. Like, in a perfect world for Gamecock fans, you're not even really playing. But things just change so quickly. One foot gets stepped on, and all of a sudden he's thrown out week one, and he'll have a chance. Everything will be in front of him. I just think that's going to be the guy, and he'll probably look good against Eastern Illinois too.
And kind of to your point, a couple other transfer quarterbacks earning starting jobs around college football over the weekend. Kentucky announcing that Penn State transfer Will Levis will take over that job. Levis actually spent some time at running back for Penn State, so mobility will be a big part of their game, and we've seen that through the last couple of years with that Kentucky offense. And Notre Dame going with the Wisconsin transfer Jack Cohn as their starting quarterback. Most notably interesting because Notre Dame and Wisconsin will kick off the season against each other there. Let you hear a little bit more from Shane Beamer, another name brought up by him, and he said mainly to avoid any kind of message board rumors or just go ahead and get that out there. Kerryon Joyner taking some snaps. His comments on that when we come back. It's the early game. It's 107.5. Oh, right now might be a great time to relax. Well, maybe not right now, especially since I'm working here with you. But maybe a little bit later today, I'm thinking because my kids have just gone to school. First day of school for me, so the house is going to be much quieter than before, especially during nap time for the 1-year-old. That means I am looking forward to some recliner time at my house. If you're looking for a new recliner, I have just the place for you. Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding is the place you got to go. It's out near the airport. I just was in there the other day, and when you walk in Daniel's, I got the feel like this place is different. It's got so much furniture. It's all over the place. I was a little overwhelmed when I first walked in, and then I looked over to my right, and that's where the leather gallery is. Motion furniture, that's what Daniel's Fine Furniture is. That's their bread and butter. If you guys are looking for furniture that moves, I'm talking about recliner, reclining love seat or sofas, that's exactly what Daniel's specializes in. And man, when you go over to that leather gallery, it's got the wood floor over there, a great feeling. You can just go sit and try all the recliners. See what feels best for you. If you like the one on the floor, they'll sell it to you. You live within 20 miles of their store out near the airport, and then they're going to deliver it to you free as well. That's because Daniel's going to treat you differently than any kind of big box store. You're not just a nameless, faceless number coming in as a customer. What Daniel and June want to do there, who own Daniel's for 25 years, is bring you into their family. And they want to treat you like family, and they know it's not just about your one purchase. It's about a relationship that they hope to have you as a customer. They plan on having you as a customer and earn your business for years to come. Just give them a chance. Go see them out at 3911 Edmond Highway, the back of the airport. That's Daniel's Fine Furniture. When it's time to save, it's time to visit Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding. So Jen just had a listener say that it lost us on the audio stream.
Let me check it.
Yeah, thank you. So how was the first couple of weeks, or is it the first week still of the Nashville, the long distance?
Yeah, it was the first week. It's only 2 weeks, and then I don't know. It'll be 2 weeks. She'll be back this weekend. I'll pick her up from the airport on Saturday, and then probably won't see her until the end of September because we're going to a concert at the end of September.
Right.
We'll see. Just got her apartment. It's very small.
Is it pretty much downtown in a good place, a good part of town? I don't know.
It's in It's in East Nashville, which is kind of like a like artsy hip sort of area. There wasn't much. There's like almost no apartments available for price range and that allow
Right.
dogs. Like the whole city is just booming right now. So yeah, and her hotel is right downtown, like a block off Broadway. So yeah, she'll be mostly downtown. That also coincided with like by far my longest work week of the year.
And so now you feel like you can breathe a little bit.
I don't know about that. I mean, I got off work at 7:30 on Saturday morning.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah.
So I want to do 11, Jen. Straight into 11, please.
Straight to 11. Okay.
You're not going to try to do anything with Bill, are you, in the afternoon, Patrick?
Not today. No, I don't know what your plan is the rest of the week, but no, I wasn't planning on it.
No, I was just happy to have you this morning. Be happy to have you the rest of the week, however you want to do it, man.
No, yeah, I'm usually good with either one. It doesn't affect me either way. It's just a matter of going to sleep after the shower, right after work.
Jen, let's take the extra minute here.
Yeah, that's kind of a need.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's not like he's in the quarterback meeting, but he's doing enough to just, at some point, injuries are a part of the game, and we're probably going to need him. So I think we'd be pretty dumb as coaches if we weren't just repping him there a little bit, not to take away from the wide receiver, because he made some fantastic plays at wide receiver today. We talked a lot about explosive plays on offense. We had some explosive plays on offense today with DK at receiver. And so that's what he is. He's not a quarterback now. He's just, gives other teams something they have to prepare for. And he's a really, 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 really smart kid, smart young man, football-wise, academically. And I'm so glad he's on our team.
Shane Beamer, Dakereon Joyner in the mix at quarterback on August 16th. He said it on August 14th even. I didn't expect that, Patrick. Again, 97% of his time at wide receiver. Fortunately, we got another hour to talk about it here on the early game.
Columbia. Total coverage. Right here. 107.5 The Game. A Cumulus station.
Temperature rises 3 to.
There you go. Got it back there. Oh, I can't imagine, man. Nashville real estate.
Yeah.
She wasn't looking into real estate. She was looking into apartments, right? I guess that's technically real estate, but
Yeah, both really. Because I know she was also hopped in like a Facebook group for subleasing to see if she could get a short term something, but the whole group was basically just people saying, "Hey, I'm moving to Nashville. Who's got a sublease?" Just all the other direction. See, some woman grew an 80-pound watermelon in Sumter. This thing is huge.
An 80-pound watermelon.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Would it be really bad for you to try and eat an 80-pound watermelon?
Yes, I think so. 80 pounds of anything.
Well, I mean, realistically, how heavy is the outside of the watermelon? I don't know.
Got me.
The shell or the skin or whatever.
Right.
Oh, Craig, we're going to Counting Crows in Simpsonville. Hopefully they're not too old and can still play a good show. Right after the Kentucky game.
Yeah, Travis. I wouldn't put too much stock into that. Seems to be the biggest no-brainer possible to pay Dawn Staley more money.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that deal they got to figure out. All right, you pay her more money. You're going to raise ticket prices for women's basketball. How will that affect attendance? That kind of deal.
Just split the difference of what you're not paying Shane Beamer.
Right. When you're 2.75 and basically everybody else in the league is 4.
Yeah.
4 and well north of 4. You're in pretty good shape. Also with the coordinators too. It's not like they went too big time compared to other SEC football programs.
Compared to their last $2 million coordinators.
Right.
Oh yeah, rind. I could not pull the word rind. What percent of a watermelon?
I'm gonna go make sure school drop off went okay. I'll be right back.
20%. Okay, so rind is 30% of the watermelon. Let's do some math. 8 times 0.3, 24. Minus 24, 56. 56 pounds of watermelon. Oh, that'd be tough. Rentals are harder than houses, Josh says. That makes sense. I know she wasn't even looking at houses. She said if she's living by herself in a city, she'll feel safer in an apartment. So that wasn't even up for debate,
you
really.
gotta get established. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Craig, are you into Outer Banks? I've not watched it, but everything I've heard. Jen, have you heard of this show, Outer Banks? Which is, I think, clearly filmed in Charleston and uses lots of Charleston sights and sounds. It's very much like a teen show. Like, I think it's a group of high school students, and it's, I think, directed at Gen Zers. I think very bad acting is what it's known for.
Awesome. That's what I certainly want to waste my time with.
I know. Some people are just very into it. I hope Craig's not saying he's into it. I could see that being a show that Bill would be invested in, though. He felt guilty watching, to be honest, he said.
You have to remember to ask him.
Yeah, that sounds right. What I just heard. Jen, can we start with doom and gloom?
Yeah.
It's just, are they high schoolers in that show, Greg?
I mean, even if they're not. I mean, when is it okay, Patrick? What age?
No, I don't know. It's always funny when it's supposed to be a high school, but they're played by
Right.
just like super hot, like 25-year-old actors.
Or like 40-year-old actors in 90210 back in the day.
You just feel bad for being like, oh, am I allowed to say that she's attractive? I don't know.
Well, you're 25, so I can understand why you're asking specifically. Just the entire concept is unacceptable to be a 40-year-old dude like me.
You just can't. Yeah, you just can't. I think they can't cast like actual 18-year-old kids to play high school roles because they look too young. Like,
right.
It's weird that they need to cast older people so that there can be like sex appeal for a high school drama.
Agreed.
A little disturbing.
I think Zac Efron was like in his mid-20s for a High School Musical.
All right, we're in the intro here. Here from Shane Beamer.
Lot of doom and gloom. I saw and heard a lot about how the hopes of our season hinged on the results of an MRI, and frankly, that's bullcrap. We've got a hell of a football team, and whether one guy's in or out, we got 117 other guys that are ready to step up no matter who's out. We got Kevin Harris out right now. We haven't it's not doom and gloom right now. It's a great opportunity for everybody else. Cam Smith is out right now. He's working hard to get back and to overcome that. And we got a great group of guys that, frankly, I'm glad they don't listen to the outside narrative, because the outside narrative, from what I was told today, was all doom and gloom and the season's over and, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? What we would have done if we had gotten bad news on Luke is we would have come right out here and had a hell of a scrimmage this afternoon and gotten ready for Eastern Illinois, which is exactly what we did. Luke feels the same way. The entire team is excited about where we are as a program right now and what we're doing in preseason camp. And the entire team is excited and cannot wait for practice this week and then September 4th in Williams-Brice Stadium.
Shane Beamer. Defiant, strong statement after the scrimmage from Saturday, discussing Luke Doty and going through exactly what happened in the last play of practice on Friday, where his foot got stepped on, and after test results, it reveals a sprain. And now that has Luke Doty as the starting quarterback questionable for the season opener on September 4th, which leads to Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier. Brown, the transfer from St. Francis, the FCS program. Gauthier, 3-star recruit from the state of Georgia, true freshman. Dakereon Joyner, he mentioned, also taking some snaps at quarterback, but 97% of his time spent at wide receiver. Adversity has struck for Gamecock football, and a clear indication, I think, Patrick, of how Shane Beamer will handle adversity. Not afraid to back his players publicly, kind of admonish any kind of fans with doubts or pessimism, and not unsurprising, I think, or not surprising, I guess, but I thought it was a strong way to approach this, because the only kind of gamble you take here is that when you come out as a strong leader with strong words, well, you got to have some strong actions as well. And otherwise you become I think, or you risk becoming just words. And that's what you want to avoid. To me, this wasn't necessarily the safe play to come out this strong. It was the aggressive play. And I think this is what Shane Beamer says he's going to be as a head coach, who he is, and personality-wise as well. Optimistic, energetic, and then aggressive. And that's what I just heard, Patrick. And I think when you also hear a guy who's asked about transfers overall and being able to create a solid level of stability, I think, in a program that's in transition, as opposed to a place like Tennessee where near 40 guys have transferred out. And Shane Beamer's response is, well, we're just being real and authentic and honest with guys. Well, then it would have struck me as very odd if you got a different response from Shane Beamer about this first level of adversity. I think this is our first glimpse into Shane Beamer kind of backing up what he said the program is going to be about, who he and his coaching staff are, and moving forward with it. What about you?
Yeah, I think the response was strong, but I think it was also just natural. I mean, especially when you're coming off the field with 100 whatever guys, and you're focused on them, giving them all your attention, working with them. When you're working with a cornerback who is working his butt off and getting better every day, or you're working with offensive linemen who are just out there grinding every day, playing hard, and then you go to a press conference and you just keep getting asked about one guy who wasn't even there that day, like one quarterback. I can see how a coach would be like.
Wait. But to be clear, this was the opening statement. This was not later on in the press. This was
all you see on Twitter. Okay, all you see on Twitter is about one guy, but he's focused on 100 guys, not one guy. So for him to come out and say, can we stop being all doom and gloom about one guy getting hurt? There's more. Like, you feel that as a coach, that it's disrespectful to the rest of your team, because you as a coach are focused on making everybody better. And if a defensive lineman, if Zach Pickens is playing really well, and he just hears everyone saying, well, we got no chance this year because Luke Doty's out, he's like, all right, come on, guys. Like, we're all a team. Like, we're all good football players here. It's not all over because one guy is hurt. So I just think when you're in that team environment all the time, and then you hear a fan try and boil down all of the problems or all of our successes and failures down to the success of one guy, that can definitely rub you the wrong way and get really annoying when all you're focused on all day long is just team. Everybody do your part. We're a team. We work together. We do everything together.
Well, I think where it can cross the line from the leadership standpoint is when your fan base, you try to give them credit for being supportive, right?
Yeah.
Within your own fan base, you hear this, and you don't see the support when you need it most. Like, let's be very clear. Right now, in the early stages, is when Shane Beamer and this football program needs Gamecock football fans the most. You don't need people to jump on the bandwagon when you get this thing turned back around, right? If Luke Doty comes back, whether it's the first game, couple of games in, and turns out to be a heck of a quarterback, then people start being convinced or start supporting the program. If they get a big win, a signature win. Well, Shane Beamer doesn't have that time, right? The college football is not that in 2021. It's just not. You don't get 4 years automatically to get your own guys in when you're getting paid solid 7 figures and then some, when you have coordinators at 7 figures. It's just not what SEC football is anymore. Well, the guy, Barry Odom, got 2 years at Missouri. Is that what it was? Maybe 3?
Yeah.
He didn't get long at all. They figured out he was doing okay, not good enough. Not for what we're paying you for. We got a guy who can get in that's winning games against Power 5 opponents at Appalachian State. Let's get that guy. It seems like it's been a pretty smart move for Missouri. Gamecock football fans want to continue to earn the reputation that I think they mostly earned in the 90s with a 21-game losing streak, that they had earned before going to road trips in Nebraska or Michigan or wherever the independent program took them. If you want to continue to earn that in the post-Steve Spurrier, post-Will Muschamp, now's the time to do it. And I guess the first chance you have to do it as a fan, outside of social chatter, is to show up on September 4th against Eastern Illinois, to go to Greenville, North Carolina for a hot as blazes noon game, I'm sure, on September 11th at noon. And then to go over to Athens, Georgia, despite being a heavy underdog in week number 3, and to show that support, but also maybe to put a word out to any of those naysayers or pessimistic people. And believe me, I get those feelings, right? Because we talked about it to start the show. My first reaction hearing the Doty news was, last year, Marshawn Lloyd at this time, out for the season. This year, your starting quarterback, who has become the leader, kind of the spokesman. If he's not the face of the program, he's pretty dang close, as Luke Doty taking over the starting quarterback role in the last 2 games last season as a true freshman. And not just that, but being as athletic as he is, to see an injury that could limit that athleticism and really maybe shape the Gamecock offense, or just put restrictions on that, constrict the playbook. We talked about it much, right? The Gamecock offense in the last several years, last several decades. Connor Shaw's been the best guy to run it. And Steve Spurrier was the first guy to admit, yeah, man, you just need a quarterback who can pick up a first down on third down when the play's not there. And Connor Shaw did that consistently. And not coincidentally is the all-time winningest quarterback in school history. Luke Doty brings that level of athleticism to the position. Now, the level of production, we got no idea. And certainly you didn't see a high level necessarily in the last 2 games last year. But that wasn't, I think, unexpected at the point of the season you're at. But going into this year, seemed like the Gamecocks were in a pretty good position with a guy that brings a lot of optimism, a lot of athleticism, leadership to the position. You got to transfer in with a redshirt senior and Jason Brown from St. Francis, and that's a program that put up some big-time numbers. And then you got a 3-star quarterback from the state of Georgia in Colton Gauthier behind that. It's Connor Jordan is the walk-on guy who's been in the program for a while as well. Certainly not the most talented quarterback room we've seen, because this quarterback room has really shifted in the last several years, right? Talking about where Jake Bentley was there and Ryan Helinski.
Oh, I mean, wasn't it, 2 seasons ago that some publication was like South Carolina's got one of the best quarterback rooms in the country, where you had Jake Bentley, Ryan Helinski, Luke Doty's committed, and then it was like, I don't know.
Carry on Joyner.
And the Carry on Joyner, and then when Gunnar Stockton committed, it was like, man, South Carolina's just going to have high 4-star QB after high 4-star QB into 5-star QB. Man, we're loaded forever. And how quickly things change is that you're battling it out between a 3-star QB and an FCS QB. Both of them have talent, to be fair, but
also to be fair, could be back for game number 1. Yep. Questionable is where Shane Beamer put it. But in the meantime, what happens from here? And then what else about this program? How is that being evaluated? Because, again, several of you have pointed out this morning, Luke Doty hasn't necessarily proven that he's a big-time SEC quarterback.
Yeah. I wanted to ask that. Like, the vibe this morning has not been doom and gloom at all from what we've seen from the live stream and from the texters. People are not doom and gloom at all. When what you saw on Twitter is doom and gloom a fair interpretation? Because for me, most of what I saw was not people saying, oh, season's over, Doty's hurt, season's over. What I saw was it's always people saying only at South Carolina. Oh, of course, things like this only happen in South Carolina. Oh, look, another injury to a starting quarterback, only here. I didn't see many people that were like, why are we even playing? Why are we even gonna put 22 guys out there in 2 weeks, or in 3 weeks? What's even the point? I didn't see much of that. And when people were comparing how he handled it to Dabo, I just don't want it to get to the point where the biggest thing with Dabo that annoys, I think, most people in the national media and South Carolina fans is that feels like he's fighting strongmen now because he feels the need to have bulletin board material every week. So if Clemson only gets 90% of the first place votes or only gets a couple first place votes and splits them with Alabama, he says, "Oh, nobody believes in little old Clemson. Everyone thinks we stink this year. They don't think we can do it." And he's always trying to have a chip on his shoulder, even when he's on top of the college football world. So
Sure.
I don't want it to get to the point where, a couple Twitter eggs say, "Oh, Doty's hurt. South Carolina's season is over." And then the coaching staff or everybody say, "Look, everyone thinks we stink now. We can't do this." I don't want a couple opinions on Twitter to shape the entire narrative of South Carolina fans or how they're feeling.
Right, but and Travis kind of points it out. The early reports were that it was a fracture and then it was going to be out for the season. So a much different type of report than what Shane Beamer telling us is a sprain and only out 2 to 3 weeks or so. And also, as you're talking about Dabo Sweeney's approach there, a couple other names popped in my head. Tom Brady seems to do that pretty well.
Michael Jordan did it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that would be a problem Gamecock fans would love to have.
Yeah.
And something they could easily stomach if a bunch of success came with the continued, maybe not made up completely motivation, but some embellished motivation, let's say, that champions have done time and time again. Clearly it's worked for them. 803-404-6100 is the number into the program. Chris says on the Facebook live stream, are we going to go with a hot hand? What if Brown comes in, completely lights things? They still go with him for East Carolina. To me, this is all part of the interesting situation right now at the quarterback position for Carolina. Also, plenty of other positions that have interesting situations, and we'll let you hear more from Shane Beamer and his perspective that he gave after that Saturday scrimmage on several different positions and where his team sits now, since we hadn't heard from him from several days. Obviously, very notable comments, including his first public comments after Karan Prunty, the freshman All-American transfer in from Kansas, has decided to transfer out. So plenty to get to today. Love for you to be a part of the program. 803-404-6100 if you'd like to call or text. Jordan just asked, where's Bill Gunter today? He's going to be filling in for Heath Klein this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday as well from 4 to 7. He's taking a few days off. Bill shifting to the afternoon show. Tim Hill, Patrick Perrette, and Jen Jensen with you this morning. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game. You got it, Jordan? No, thanks for reminding me. I meant to say it earlier.
Where's Heath at?
I think he's just on vacation.
Yeah, I saw him post a picture of a Michael Jackson statue or something like that. I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, he's in LA.
Oh, LA. Nice.
It's pretty funny. Not funny, but interesting that somebody just said it was clearly a Dabo move, but if it gets Dabo results, who cares? Like Dabo Sweeney made that up.
Made what up? His style?
No, the only coach ever to come out and say doom and gloom is not what it is.
Oh, yeah.
But that is going to be part of the dynamic for sure moving forward. I think they are pretty similar. I think maybe the difference will be that I don't know if we've ever heard Dabo talk about like being authentic and being real. And I think that he gets some criticism there. maybe from the public persona versus what goes on behind closed doors.
I mean, I don't think many people like that. I think Saban's more popular than Dabo, right?
Good question.
If we did like a national opinion poll.
Nah, I don't know.
At least Saban is who he is. I don't think Saban ever gets accused of being fake.
No about that. Ha. That's funny, Travis. Ball trends. And someone tried to tell me that he started cookouts. Definitely in South Carolina, Nick Saban much more popular overall. Or at least around the Columbia portion.
Have you seen the new thing on Twitter that LeBron's just getting made fun of for pretending to like predict things?
Nah.
This just reminded me of that because Travis said someone told me Debo invented cookouts. Reminded me of LeBron trying to trademark Taco Tuesday, but this like old video of him in like a pregame interview saying that he knew that Kobe was going to score 80 points the night that he scored 81 points, and just like completely blowing smoke up the reporter's butt. And now it's become like a running joke on Twitter of like LeBron just. I think the other day he said something like, "I said Fields is the man," and he said, "Oh, I tweeted this right before he threw that touchdown pass too," and everyone's like, "Yeah, I bet you did, LeBron." I think that video got like a couple million views of him just very clearly lying about calling Kobe's 80-point game. Braves are in first place now.
Yeah, here are.
The Mets have been in first place the entire season, right?
Pretty much. The Phillies took over just for a little bit here in the last week or so. So Jen would like to come back. I'll do a liner and then want to do a series of sounds here. Back and set them up in between. We're going to start with 9. Do 9, 12, and then 14.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you said you will call for each one of them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
9, 12, 14.
You guys are up.
Welcome to Monday, another week. Hope you had a good weekend. Mine included being able to play in a little golf tournament with my dad. That was a blast. I'm hoping to see you out at Charwood Golf Club a week from Friday at our 14th anniversary 1075 The Game Golf Tournament, presented by Integrated Media, also sponsored by Buford Lending, where they're going to give you a chance to win $10,000 for prizes on all 4 par 3s out there at Charwood. It's a 4-person Captain's Choice event. Just give them a call at Charwood to register right now at 803-755-2000. You can register as an individual or as a foursome. We're going to have Panera Breakfast, Little Pig's Lunch, raise some money for Camp Cole, give away a trip to Kiowa for the winning team, raffle off a pair of tickets to the Gamecock season opener against Eastern Illinois. Have a trophy out there for the winner provided by the Trophy and Awards Center over on Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Again, call Charwood at 803-755-2000 if you would like to join our 14th anniversary 1075 The Game Golf Tournament, August 27th, 10 a.m. is the time. And if something ever comes up outside of our show hours, that's when you can hit the Hot Take Hotline. For instance, if you saw a report over the weekend about a certain Gamecock quarterback, 803-978-6654 is the number for the Hot Take Hotline. There for you 24/7. New event sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settle. Go see him down at Vista at 600 Gervais Street. Right now, wanted to let you hear more from Shane Beamer and the news that Luke Doty is now questionable for that season opener with a sprained foot. Certainly not the only news for Gamecock football. First of all, they had a scrimmage over the weekend, and then other injury updates, including on projected starting cornerback Cam Smith, who's been in a walking boot for a while, another foot issue. Here's Shane Beamer on Cam Smith.
The foot heels, and he had the boot off and was walking around in the walkthrough like in a stance and trying to do stuff. So he's eager. Don't know exactly how quickly exactly. We're still optimistic for him for the first game. Nothing's changed from that standpoint. Trying to just accelerate the rehab and get him well, but he's moving right along.
And not the biggest name right now out due to injury. That name, along with Luke Doty, from a proven college perspective, production perspective, no doubt is Kevin Harris, the running back who went for 1,000 yards for the first time since 2013 as a Gamecock and did it in 10 SEC games last year, where his status was also coming up on Saturday at Shane Beamer's press conference.
Shane, what's the latest on Kevin Harris? Should he be practicing this week?
I hope so. He moves around well. He looks good. He feels good. We'll obviously defer, to the doctors, but he's, I think the last time I talked to you guys, I think I told you he was on track to play in game 1 and nothing's changed. He feels great and hoping we are, but we also want to be, smart as well. We're still 3 weeks from playing. And
again, that's Shane Beamer. The question coming from the Charleston Post and Courier's David Cloninger on the latest for running back Kevin Harris, still out at practice, not 100% yet, not cleared medically, but Beamer says feels good and will be there available for the season opener. Okay, then the question it goes to, I think, shifts outside of the quarterbacks and who's going to get the snaps if Luke Doty doesn't and the whole thing. All right, what about the guys they're going to throw to? Because last year, the wide receiver position, outside of Shi Smith, who made his first NFL catch over the weekend in the preseason game that the Panthers played, and it was a good catch down the sideline, by the way, against the Indianapolis Colts, about 25 yards or so. Outside of him last year, there was next to no production. So here's Shane Beamer's latest evaluation on his wide receivers.
Really excited about Ortre Smith. He's made some really impressive catches, competitive catches this week in practice, and plays along the sideline where he had to go up, and it was a 50-50 ball that he came down with. Like what he's done. Xavier Legette, big physical body out there that's done a nice job. Rico Powers has flashed, and Peyton Mangrum and Trey Atkins did a nice job in the spring, and they've continued on as well. So I like that group. They're hungry and working hard and nowhere near a finished product. We've got to do a better job of protecting the football. Offensively, the wide receivers, the running backs, and the tight ends, the guys that are carrying the ball. But as far as making plays in the passing game, those guys have made some, and they're going against a group that's really done a nice job of getting the ball out and creating turnovers defensively as well.
Things you just heard from Shane Beamer talking more about the depth. He mentioned the frontline guys, the first three right now. I think basically how I translated it, Patrick, was the starting lineup for wide receiver right now would be Kerryon Joyner, Jalen Brooks, and Josh Vann, and was asked about explosive plays down the field, and he mentioned it was all Jalen Brooks right now making those plays. What do you take away from what we just heard from Shane Beamer about multiple issues after Saturday's scrimmage?
Well, I think I just focusing on the wide receivers. I think you feel pretty darn good about what he said about that room, because Ortre Smith being healthy would be so huge, because it's been the discussion for the last couple of years, and he is one of the most, I think, the second most productive wide receiver on the roster right now after, I think, Amarion Brown. So that would be huge, and you've just got a kind of a wide variety of skill sets there, which is important. Ortre Smith being the big sort of possession guy. Kerryon Joyner obviously has all kinds of juice as a runner after the catch. Xavier Legette, he just mentioned that little soundbite, who can be really dynamic with the ball in his hands, as we've seen a little bit just in him as a punt returner in his freshman year. He did some good stuff there. So I think you're pretty excited about that, and you're hoping, I think, after some of the highlights from the weekend, I think that's what it was, Juju McDowell, right? That spin move on the Gamecock Twitter page.
Yeah.
That kid has got wheels. So I think at this point, Gamecock fans are pretty much ready to just say, don't even throw the football. Just put Kevin Harris, Marshawn Lloyd, and Juju McDowell now. Give them the ball 35 times a game and just let them go. Like, that's all we need at this point. I think highlight wise, running back is an ideal position, because like in Marshawn Lloyd's first week of practice, we saw him I think he hurdled somebody in practice, and we said immediately, okay, well, this kid's ready. Now we see a highlight of Juju McDowell making a spin move and scoring a 70-yard touchdown or whatever it was, and saying, all right, well, this kid's going to play now. So I don't know. I think running back's just it's an easy position to evaluate, because you can see a guy make a couple guys miss and score a touchdown, whereas the secondary, we're not going to know what we have until the games actually get played.
Early adversity, I think, is the best way to put where Gamecock football is, and probably every major football program at this point of the preseason camp. You're not going to go through more than a handful of practices at this level and not deal with your fair share of issues from an injury standpoint, and then depth and the whole thing. You mentioned Amarion Brown. I find it curious not to hear a word out of him from Shane Beamer at this point. Brown, the transfer wide receiver that broke Calvin Johnson's freshman touchdown record at Georgia Tech.
I agree. I don't think his name has been brought up without being directly asked ever, really. I know that he was complimentary because people asked. I know some of the reporters have specifically asked about Amarion Brown, just because, I mean, he's arguably the most high profile of the receivers. Obviously around here, people love to Kerryon Joyner, and we all remember what Ortre Smith did his freshman year, but nobody has the numbers that Amarion Brown has. So we just kind of assumed it's a thin wide receiver room. When he decided to transfer, we thought that, okay, well, he's transferring because someone has told him that he's going to have the chance for playing time, or he expects to be able to come in and win a job right away. I don't know what's going on. Maybe just the talent level between South Carolina and Georgia Tech was that drastic that there was no one else on the Georgia Tech roster that could catch balls, that could do anything really. So he just—
Well, don't forget, last year the numbers really fell off. Sophomore season for Brown as well. So he's almost similar to Ortre Smith in that way, that the most production came first year of his career, and then it has fallen off since then.
Was his freshman year a triple option season, or would they?
I think it was the first year of Jeff Collins. That's a good question. I'm not sure if that was the last year of Johnson or not in 2019. I believe it is the exact season. I see you going and checking that. That's why.
Yeah.
What you did
since 2018. So yeah.
So it was the first year of Jeff Collins there, where it was more of a traditional offense as opposed to overcoming the triple option. Speaking of transfers in college football, other transfer news out there, or other news, and this is also where other programs are that went into preseason practice needing a starting quarterback. having not named a starting quarterback because of transfer guys coming in, maybe experienced quarterbacks leaving. That's the case for both of the programs I'm about to bring up. At Kentucky, they had old touchdown Terry Wilson for the last several years, who was productive. Not great, not spectacular, made his fair share of issues, couldn't quite get Kentucky to the next level, you feel like a lot of times, but won a bunch of games. And now it looks like a similar style of quarterback will take over there. In Penn State transfer, Will Levis, who actually played some running back for Penn State in his time there before transferring. Certainly notable that style will seem to continue. And I believe he beat out an Auburn transfer, Joey Gatewood, there as well. And then
Joey Gatewood, there was buzz that he was going to take over for touchdown Terry the last couple of years, just because they were saying, this guy can throw the ball. Terry Wilson does not really have an arm. There's nothing to speak of there. And then now Joey Gatewood, just 2 or 3 years in, just never going to get a chance. It's Kentucky.
Well, again, it's Auburn. It's August 16th, and I'm a starting quarterback, and then sometimes you have to make adjustments. See South Carolina at this point. Notre Dame also naming a transfer starting quarterback over the weekend. Jack Cohn from Wisconsin, who lost his job to Graham Mertz there, and Graham Mertz, they're going to square off in season number 1, or game number 1 of the season when Notre Dame and Wisconsin play each other. That's the notable part of that news. Along with Notre Dame naming starting quarterback. I believe it is. So double check that one for us as well as we move on here. I want to get back to the game quarterback situation. What do you got?
I'm saying September 25th.
So later on in the season. The meeting in game number 1, September meeting between Notre Dame and Wisconsin early on in the year. It looks like it'll be a battle of two guys who used to be starting quarterbacks for Wisconsin only, and now one of them's transferred.
Notre Dame will be opening up with Florida State, which is also a pretty cool matchup. And Wisconsin opens up with Penn State. So,
okay. Yeah, a couple of good season openers for both of those programs. I think that's why I got that confused in my head. But wanted to get back to the Gamecock quarterback situation with now a couple of guys. First of all, Patrick, you talked about where the quarterback room was with Jake Bentley going into his senior season. I think it was still at that point, even though he's still in college football now, which is crazy. 3 years ago. Maybe it was his junior season technically at that point. I guess it was his junior season technically. But you had Jake Bentley there coming off plenty of experience. You had a big-time California recruit in Ryan Walensky added to the Mr. Football in the state of South Carolina into Kerryon Joyner already in the quarterback room. And then on the way that you were talking about, Luke Doty lined up as a big-time quarterback coming in. And then I think this happened after this, actually, where you had another big-time quarterback kind of lined up. So it seemed to be that this position was going to be deep and for years to come, going to be much improved. And then Jake Bentley gets hurt in very much the same way it has been described that Luke Doty got hurt and being stepped on at the end of that season opener in North Carolina. For Bentley, as opposed to Doty, it was a Liz Frank fracture that kept him out the entire rest of the season, which thrust Ryan Walensky right into the starting lineup as a true freshman. And then we saw Walensky struggle by and large his entire season and then get beat out. And now no longer at South Carolina, transferred up to Northwestern where he's battling for the starting quarterback job. But Luke Doty has come and beat him out. Now you see Doty go down with injury, getting stepped on. Called a sprain right now, questionable for the season opener. And that leaves a St. Francis quarterback transfer from the FCS level in Jason Brown, and then a true freshman in Colton Gauthier from the state of Georgia, a 3-star prospect. The way this gets handled in the next several weeks is going to be really interesting, because not just how these guys are talked about in their competition and the offense and the evolution and the whole thing, but also kind of Luke Doty being in the wings and the rehab process, the update, the likelihood of him playing, and then how comfortable will Gamecock coaches be, Patrick, to put either Brown or Gauthier out there with Luke Doty at less than 100%. You know what I'm saying? If Luke Doty comes back and he's 85%, is that
right better than
more valuable than a 100% guy who hasn't thrown a pass at the Division I level? Not that Doty's thrown a ton of them. I think he's thrown 70 in his 2 combined starts and then playing the second half of last year's Missouri.
Yeah, I would hope that he wouldn't play if he's not 100% at all, just because maybe the nature of the injury is such that it's a pain management situation, or you're not going to make things worse by playing on it. But if there's any shot, and what it sounds like is Shane Beaver said he's just got to keep weight off a bit. If there's any shot that he comes back too early for the sake of playing against Eastern Illinois, I don't think too many people will be happy about that. And it will be kind of a very bad reflection on how these next couple weeks have gone with Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier taking all the reps. They should be good enough to beat Eastern Illinois without having to throw more than 10 passes. Like, that should just be the case against an opponent like that. I don't think that would happen. I think they would tread carefully and only put Luke Doty out there if he's at 100%. But if we see, which I guess we could definitely see, is Jason Brown out there to start week 1, but Luke Doty still in full pads on the sideline, just with his helmet off, I guess that would be a sign that he's there as an emergency if we need it. But I think what we all hope is that he's fully healthy and ready for week 1, and this isn't an issue at all. But I would hope that he's just out there in a jersey and shorts, and Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier can just easily take care of business for the first week. And then things start to get interesting against East Carolina. You start playing out what could happen as the season progresses, and it's like, all right, well, what if Jason Brown just completely lights it up for the first 2 weeks? And what do you do going into Georgia and Luke Doty's healthy? Like, is there any debate of who's going to start against Georgia? What if Jason Brown crushes Eastern Illinois and Luke Doty comes in and struggles against East Carolina? Then what do you do? I mean, there's just so many interesting scenarios that could play out I guess we're leaning towards Luke Doty's not playing week 1. Like, are you 60-40? Where are you feeling on that?
Questionable. It's 50-50 to me.
Okay. So if he doesn't play week 1, it's going to be very interesting no matter what. Like, almost any outcome is going to have a fascinating storyline attached to it.
Completely agree. And this is part of the challenge of being a head coach, managing a situation like this and knowing that this is Shane Beamer's first year as a head coach. Wow. You wanted to be in that chair. Here you go. First test for sure, dealing with some early adversity for Gamecock football. Dramatic conclusion of the show coming up. We'll give you at least one more comment from Shane Beamer talking about his quarterback situation and another name that's popped up in the guys who are getting snaps right now, especially. We'll do that when we come back. 803-404-6100. If you would like to get in a final word, you can call or text. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game. The early game video stream sponsored by Buford Lending here every single morning, where you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube Live, also on Twitter. The station handle is at 107.5 The Game. Buford Lending is who I recommend you give a call to right now if you have any inkling into getting into the housing market, which is absolutely hot. You give them a call at 843-524-2404, and Benji Getzi and his team of experienced lenders, they've been doing it for almost 25 years. And whatever loan you're looking for out there, or whatever situation you might be in, whether you're looking for a VA loan, a conventional construction renovation loan, you're looking to refinance your mortgage right now, and you just want to run the numbers. And when Benji did that for me, I was amazed at the numbers he showed me and the flexibility, the opportunity he put me and my family in. And I recommend you give him a chance to do that as well, because Benji knows you probably have a relationship with a prior lender. Maybe you've done it before and it's worked out for you, but he's confident that he can find you an even better deal by using his experience and his team down at Buford Lending. 843-524-2404. That's Buford Lending and Benji Getzi.
Are McDonald's eggs real eggs?
Didn't see that coming. I would love to see the scientific lab results. I would go with no, maybe like a trace. What about you? Why did you bring it up?
Well, because dog loves eggs, and I like putting them in her food, so it'll just make her eat all her food at once. But I don't really want to bake eggs.
Gotcha.
And I was thinking about going to get like a big breakfast platter at McDonald's and just giving her the eggs.
Nice.
But I don't know if that's safe or not.
Kev says no. I'm going to let you continue the discussion. Back.
No, as in they're not eggs, but still safe to give to a dog. There's got to be some egg in them. Let me Google it. Are McDonald's eggs real? Are they allowed to lie and say they use real eggs if they're not using real eggs? Isn't there like rules against that? We always start with a real egg. All of the eggs are prepared with the liquid margarine. Looks like for the McMuffins, they crack an egg. And for their scrambled eggs, they use liquid eggs. And they scramble liquid eggs on the grill.
Yeah, they
Folded
probably don't
eggs
have time to,
to crack
they
eggs, you
don't
mean?
have time to crack the egg, beat it up with the milk, all that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. So they have different types of eggs for every dish, basically. The folded egg in a McGriddle is coming from a cooked and then frozen folded egg.
Scrumptious.
So all of their 3 different types of eggs are made in different ways. But if you want a real cracked egg at McDonald's, you should get the McMuffin, it looks like.
Okay. So basically, and that's preformed, so obviously they're putting it into a little
Just drop it into like the rounded, yeah.
Yep.
I'd kind of like to have one of those. Be nice for making breakfast sandwiches.
Yeah, you can find those a lot of different places.
Good inside info from Kev, huh? I think that's pretty much anybody that's worked at any restaurant, isn't it?
Yeah. I just read the McDonald's. When McDonald's says we use and crack a real egg for a McMuffin, we use liquid eggs for. They're not allowed to lie about that, right?
Right.
Wouldn't think so.
Okay. Like the FDA would be on them, or whoever it is would be on them for lying, I would think.
I guess technically, if they're using a real egg, that's the most important part of all that. Like, no matter how it comes, if it's a liquid, if they've already pre-mixed it, or
Yeah. You're talking about eggs. Oh, and it's not on the menu, but you can substitute a round egg on any breakfast sandwich or platter, and you'll just get a real egg. Interesting.
and can you watch the employees go?
We don't want to do that. We already have them made.
Exactly. There might be some, but sometimes if I tell somebody, I'm sorry, I ordered a Diet Coke, not a Coke, and I get the
They get upset when
the
they have to do
attitude.
anything.
I've worked fast
Can we-
food. I understand. Still have to be nice to people.
All right, Jen, I'm going to do something first, and then we'll do number 3.
Okay.
Do a little liner first, though. Click these off.
Okay. Liner and then 3. All right, Kezra.
You can tell football season's getting close. Next couple of Fridays going to be a little extra fun. This Friday, August 20th, Keith Klein live on location from 4 to 7 at Steel Hands Brewing in Casey, part of the Gamecock Central preseason party festivities. Former players going to be telling some stories there, prize giveaways, live music from Patrick Davis and the Midnight Choir. Pregame starts when Heath kicks things off at 4 o'clock. Player roundtables and guest speakers at 7. Music with Patrick Davis and the Midnight Choir at 8:30. That's this Friday night, Steel Hands Brewing over in Casey. And then a week from Friday is our 14th anniversary celebration on the golf course out at Charwood. Friday, August 27th, 10 a.m., 4-person captain's choice. Give Charwood a call right now at 803-755-2000 if you would like to register. Winning team's going to get a trip to Kiowa, going to have prizes on all 4 par 3s, including a grand prize worth $10,000 if you knock a hole in one in there. That's sponsored by Buford Lending. The tournament sponsored by Integrated Media. Appreciate our sponsors out there for the 14th anniversary golf tournament. Again, mark the calendar for Friday, August 27th at 10 a.m. and give Charwood a call at 755-2000 if you'd like to sign up. Want to let you hear now from Shane Beamer about another name, Luke Doty, questionable now at starting quarterback. You got Jason Brown and Colton Gauthier behind him, splitting the snaps or taking the snaps and trying to fill in at starting quarterback if Doty can't go. And then they're not the only guys taking snaps at quarterback for the Gamecock.
Message board, chat, rumors, and things like that. Carry on Joyner played some quarterback today. He may play some quarterback in the first game. So Eastern Illinois, East Carolina, Georgia, until Luke gets back. Because we've got that element in our offense also.
That is the anti-Will Muschamp approach I think we just heard. Hey, this is it. Yep. No rumors, no reason to hide it. Yeah, to carry on Joyner. Might take some snaps too. Because I think the easy, logical place for us to go, Patrick, if Shane Beamer doesn't bring that up over the weekend, is are they going to move the carry on Joyner back, and are they going to do it permanently? Is he going to be the most likely guy to do it? But when you also add, like Shane Beamer did, that 97% of the carry on Joyner's time is being spent at wide receiver, well, that's a pretty solid number, and it's a pretty clear, definitive answer to how things are moving forward from here, while admitting that Joyner is getting a few snaps.
I mean, how would people have felt if Shane Beamer came in and said, yeah, it's going to be Gauthier and Brown battling it out, but I think we're going to move DeCarron Joyner to quarterback full-time, at least until Luke Doty gets back. What would people have said at that point?
That would have been a much different conversation. But I think Beamer would even give it a bit of a pass just because he has a different offensive coordinator than's worked with the carry-on Joyner in the past. But, wow, what a notable weekend in so many ways. And preseason practice has come with plenty of preseason storylines.
30.
And it's today leading the way. Luke Doty, questionable for game number 1 as the starting quarterback for Gamecock football. What happens there? And then so many other things around it, including Shane Beamer's approach in dealing with the early adversity. Appreciate you dealing with us this morning. Patrick, nice work over there helping to fill in for Bill Gunter. Again, Bill's going to be filling in for Heath the next several days, Monday through Wednesday, and the halftime or the game time show. The Dan Patrick show is coming up next year. Thanks for listening to the early game on 107.5.
This is South Carolina head women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. You're listening.
All right, guys, on the live stream, appreciate all the help checking us out this morning.
We'll do it again tomorrow.
Yes, we will. I don't know if we'll have as much to talk about tomorrow.
We won't have cheap dog either.
Thanks, DC, Chris, Anthony. Hope, excellent information.
Yeah, I think the plan is to ask for a round egg for her, and I'll put the round egg in her bowl.
There you
There
go.
you go. Spoiled
Mark?
pup.
Good luck with that, Mark. I'm going to try to sneak one in, too, with kids at school for the first time in a long time.
Long time.
Big day, big day. All right, I'm going to go get owned by the 16-month-old first. See you guys in the morning.